Meu time é King of Asphalt, mas se eu fosse falar de mim, eu sou um pouco mais agressivo, né, na minha pilotagem, mas sempre correndo de forma limpa, né, para não prejudicar ninguém, e eu acho que esse é o meu diferencial. Minha pista preferida é Nürburgring, meu carro preferido é o Porsche GT3 RZ, meu super-herói favorito é o Hulk. Meu melhor momento com certeza foi em Tóquio, né, eu liderei a corrida toda a corrida, e acabei na última volta tomando uma penalidade, caindo para segundo, mas foi realmente meu melhor momento, meu primeiro pódio, né, no Gran Turismo, e foi muito especial. Sim, no começo tu achou meio um pouco estranho, né, mas depois da primeira viagem eles viram que era bem sério, né, era profissional mesmo, e agora minha mãe e meu pai sempre me apoiam, assistem minhas corridas, ficam lá torcendo, e é bem engraçado. E meu objetivo é ser campeão, né, da Copa das Nações e da Manufactures também. Eu tô treinando bastante para isso, né, todo dia, treino árduo. Então, meus objetivos fora do Gran Turismo, eu acho que é construir uma família aí. Já tenho uma mulher, então vamos ver se tem um filho aí mais pra frente.
食べる、寝る、遊ぶです。日本の国分良太です。このような状況なのであまりいい年とは言えませんでした。こういった形で大会を開催していただけることに感謝し、精一杯頑張りたいと思います。私は他の人と比べるようなことはあまりしていません。世界各国の選手たちと会えないことや、会場独特の雰囲気を味わえないことです。グランツーリスモです。子供から大人まで幅広い年齢層の方々が楽しめるレースゲームであり、なおかつ様々なカテゴリーの車がレースをできる点です。これからどんどん盛り上がっていったらいいなと思っています。空を飛ぶ能力が欲しいなと思います。こんな私ですが、応援してくださっている方々に感謝し、精一杯頑張りたいと思います。
My most representative animal is the chicken because my surname is Gallo, which means in English chicken. So hi, I'm Valerio Gallo, also known as Williams Racer or the VTEC boy, and I'm from Italy and I'm currently in the Williams esports team. About racing remotely, I think it's a good advantage because you are alone with yourself and you can focus on the competition. My favorite GT car is obviously the Honda NSX. My favorite GT track, Lago Maggiore. I think my best moment was surely the semi-final in Monaco World Finals in 2019. My favorite food is the spaghetti. My main inspiration, Keiichi Tsuchiya, is a Japanese drifting driver. I'm currently studying languages at the university, but I would also like to try to get into the motorsport. I really miss the people because since I joined the first World Tour in Tokyo in 2019, I had the opportunity to talk with people all over the world, be friends with the rivals I'm against with. When I dance, I look like drunk, honestly. Stop. And also looking at my performances, I think I could win also, you know. I can really show something that I still didn't show, so thank you all for watching. See you next time and also trust in the VTEC, guys.
「 sneaky look up the inside. They're side by side. He's up the inside. He's so close. He's pushing it wide. Side by side they come. Tries to muscle him out. It was mightily close. Breathing down his neck, trying to find his way past. He has the time disadvantage. Spins. He loses out. As we come on to the final lap of racing here. A Nations Cup final, we have Lopez defensive. Frogger tries the long way round. Big drama! And it's going to be absolutely amazing. What a Nations Cup final we have.
Hello and welcome to the FIA certified Gran Turismo World Finals 2020 Nations Cup Championship. Yes, we are in the final day of the Gran Turismo calendar. This is the last event of the year. My name's Julia Hardy, and along with the rest of the Gran Turismo family, we are super excited to bring you all of the action as it happens today. It has been unbelievably exciting to get up to this point with the GR Supra GT Cup and the Manufacturer Series already happened. And if you missed the action, first of all, where were you and why weren't you watching it? But, you know, we're quite nice here, so we've made a little package to catch you up.
Plenty of racing action we've had over the course of the last couple of days here for the Gran Turismo World Finals in the GR Supra GT Cup. You can see that Jose Serrano led the way, but that was only until the last lap. Takuma Miyazono with a blinding strategy, getting himself ahead.
Yeah, doing what he does best, getting that strategy sorted out, and there you go. One very happy Takuma Miyazono. Then we went to the Manufacturer Series. Race 1, which was at the Sardinia road course, led away by Mercedes-Benz on an interesting strategy, opting for the medium to turn the softs.
Yeah, you can see Ford here getting their way past in the mid-stages, going head-to-head, but it was Lucas Bonelli who would eventually hold on for the race victory. The Brazilian driver getting a perfect start to his day. Race 2 got underway at the Red Bull Ring with Toyota leading the way early doors, then Subaru making some good ground on Citroen in the mid-stages. It was coming down to the final corner, though, for the race win. Takuma Miyazono for Subaru, taking the checkered flag ahead of Toyota.
There you go. See, that's looking quite a good weekend for Miyazono so far, hasn't it? Then, of course, we went into the final race at Interlagos. 30 laps of this famous Brazilian circuit. Mick Casal making big moves in the Subaru on his way to the top of the field.
And despite BMW's pole position as well, they would eventually fall back behind Honda and Subaru. Subaru taking the checkered flag in the race and the overall win in the 2020 Manufacturer Series.
As you can see, there was so much action that's happened in the past two championships. Miyazono, seriously, he's just absolutely smashing it at the moment. And one day I will get him to admit that he is incredible when we do our kind of post-race interviews. But I think we might be a few championships away from that happening just yet. So whilst the Manufacturer Series was all about team-based racing, today is the Nations Cup. So it is all about national pride. Everyone is representing their country. So even if the stakes weren't high already, they are doubly high because this is all about representing your nation. And if you've missed the past couple of years of events, we thought we'd throw together a quick video to get you caught up.
The 2020 Nations Cup comes to its crescendo here this weekend, but it's time to take a quick look back at what's happened over the last couple of years in the FIA Gran Turismo Championships. Igor Fraga, of course, won the inaugural championship back in Monaco in 2018.
Your first FIA GT champion.
Goes up on his feet, hands in the air, and a well-deserved victory, a release of emotion.
A meteoric achievement which has seen the Brazilian go on to new heights within Gran Turismo and, of course, outside of it. In 2019, it was the turn of Mikael Hazal to take over the crown at the top. This man here, Mikael Hazal, 9 out of 15 races he's won in the World Tour, and he is the 2019 Nations Cup World Champion, Mikael Hazal! The German-Turkish driver eventually claiming the top of the crown at the end of the season after an incredibly intense battle to the checkered flag. A meteoric performance from the young driver. Let's see who is going to claim the crown here in 2020.
It's really hard for us at the Gran Turismo family to imagine a Nations Cup without Fraga and Hazal. It just seems really bizarre. But this is actually what's happening this year. Neither of these two were competing in the Nations Cup. Obviously, they competed in the Manufacturer Series, but they're not going to be in this one. But what this does mean is that we're going to have a brand new Nations Cup champion by the end of today. So that's very exciting. And to be honest with you, it was no easy task to get to this stage, to even be included in the final. These 16 drivers have literally been racing their socks off to get to this point. So why don't we see what went down in the regionals?
The regional finals for the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships have been hard fought. It's a fantastic end to the race. Here comes Benelli sending it down the inside. Does he get through? Hernandez gets the switch back then. In the EMEA region, it was Coque Lopez who took a surprise victory.
Goodbye, Jose, says Coque.
And he comes over the line here at Spa-Francorchamps to become the EMEA regional final champion. He finished in the standings ahead of his fellow Spaniard Jose Serrano, with Baptiste Beauvoir finishing in third. Grand final for the Asia-Oceania region is underway then. In Asia-Oceania, it was Takuma Miyazono, the Japanese driver, who sat at the top of the standings at the very end of the season, ahead of Ryota Kokubun and then Tomoki Yamanaka. Three drivers who were one to watch. Cody Lukowski, though, was equal on points with Yamanaka for third position. He could certainly be one to watch in the Asia-Oceania region ahead of this world final. Yamanaka's on the inside with Miyazono wide on the outside there. In the Americas region, we combined South and North America, which saw Adriano Carrazza from Brazil at the top of the order. The race winner, Adriano Carrazza, wins the Americas regional final. On 38 points, though, he was tied with the Chilean driver Angel Inestrosa. Andrew Brooks also equal on points there in third position as well.
And where's Inestrosa? There he goes! Inestrosa goes up into second place.
An incredible performance from the Canadian driver, meaning that the Americas region drivers should be very, very competitive as we head into the World Finals for the Nations Cup.
As you can see, every single one of the competitors here today has worked so hard and deserves their spot in this final. And they come from all over the world. Yeah, we have competitors from the entire Earth, pretty much. It's quite fantastic to see, all representing their nations here today. Now, one of the drivers that I just want to shine a quick highlight on is a name that we've talked about an awful lot in Gran Turismo, which is Takuma Miyazono. And if you don't know about him yet and his amazing skills, you should probably watch this, because he's definitely one you need to keep your eye on today.
他人の心理を読み取る能力っていうのが欲しいです。日本代表の宮園拓磨です。でオンラインでも他の選手と戦えるっていうのは、いいところではあると思うんですけど、やっぱり会えないっていうのがすごく残念というか、悲しい部分ですね。挑んでします。ニューヨークで行われたネーションズカップの方になるんですけど、あんまり自分は結果自体は伴わなかったんですけど、すごく内容のいいレースができたので、それがすごく自分に自信を持てるきっかけになりましたし、今の自分にすごいつながっている部分だと思うので、それだと思います。レッドブルの X2019 コンペティションです。鈴鹿とレッドブルリンクです。レースでも何でもそうなんですけど、一番になれないことです。優勝を目指してもちろん頑張るんですけど、見ている方々がワクワクするようなそういうレース運びができればいいなというふうに思っているので、そういった部分にも注目して自分をぜひ応援していただければいいなというふうに思っています。
Takuma Miyazono, a man with so many W's, he's starting to look like a URL. I just made that up. It probably wasn't the best explanation. But he's amazing. He's incredible. It's just phenomenal to see him race. And for me, kind of one of the big stories and the thing that I'm going to be really excited and looking for today is the battle between him and Lukowski. Obviously, they met up in regionals, but I don't think anyone can forget what happened at the end of Sydney, OK? And surely that's going to be playing on Cody's mind. I mean, he's been driving really, really safely. I don't know, it's the World Finals. Maybe he's just going to let it rip. It's going to be really, really exciting to watch. Don't forget, of course, that the stream today is going out in 7 different languages, so you can pick whatever flavour you like, any language you'd like to hear. We've got you covered. And before we get into that first race, I just want to kind of tip my hat to the very beautiful Yaris we've got here. Yeah, the Toyota GR Yaris, mainly because it's going to be in the first race, and also mainly because I'm starting to think, is it a bit too late to ask Father Christmas for it? And I'm not sure it'll fit in a stocking, but I think I might just ask anyway because it's really beautiful. Well, I think we should get this world final underway. I'm going to throw it now over to Tom and Jimmy.
Yeah, cheers, Julia. Thanks very much. Welcome along to the GT Desk. I'm Tom Brooks, alongside me as ever, JB, Jimmy Broadbent here for the action. Jimmy, if we look at the Nations Cup lineup, I mean, we've got just such a depth of talent up and down the field. I mean, you don't get here without that talent, but this is going to be so close to call.
Well, this is the thing with this series, is when we first started doing this, these were just sort of a random list of names. Now we look at it and go, these are the best drivers in the world, and of course they're all going to be fighting out for that one big prize, the one everyone's after.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see who's going to claim that prize at the end of this evening. Let's take a look, shall we, at the competition and format though. So you can see the top 16 drivers from our regional finals, as well as the Nations Cup winner from Sydney earlier on this year. Drivers accumulate points over the course of all 3 of the races here today. Races 1 and 2 are normal points. Race 3, the grand final, is double points, as you can see on your screen. So maybe if things don't get your way in the first 2 races, you can try and turn things around. You can see drivers are also starting with the World Tour points that were awarded earlier on in the season. Takuma Miyazono currently leading the standings. And of course, out of the 16 drivers, only one can become the Nations Cup World Champion of 2020. And here are the points rankings as they stand.
That's right, Miyazono on the leader at the moment with 11 points, 8 apiece for Koke Lopez and Karatza, with Serrano, Inestrosa, Kokubun and Lopkowski all on 7. So very tight as it stands, of course, but we have 3 races between now and the crowning the champion. So interested to see who will progress and who will fall back.
So those are the point standings then, but we've got to pick some drivers to watch because I'm sure everybody at home wants to know our opinion, of course.
No, not mine.
Well, anyway, we're going to give it to them. So Adriano Karatza, he's the guy I'm watching for. I mean, he's been really quick. We've seen him in the Manufacturer Series finals, of course, performing very well for Toyota. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the Nations here.
I remember him back at Tokyo last year where he drove Kokubun right at the last second. Nearly made it work. So really aggressive driver. For me, though, it's got to be Miyazono. Guy's on a high at the moment, you know, winning the Super Cup and, of course, being part of the manufacturer's winning team as well. One of the fastest drivers in the world right now. So I reckon Takuma's got it made for now. Steve, though, dude, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go with Valerio Gallo. I know that he can be a little bit inconsistent at times, but I know that he has the pace. If he can hook it all up on his day, he can be right at the front. So I'm going to root for him, and that gives us all one from each region each. So hopefully Gallo will go well.
Well, there we are. Those are our drivers to watch. What about you at home? Get in touch with us on the chat over the course of this one. Let us know who you are going to be rooting for in this Nations Cup World Final. And speaking of the Nations Cup World Final and, of course, the racing, that's along the way very, very shortly. But before that, we'll get things kicking off with the GT Anthem. Well, hopefully the GT Anthem there has got you hyped up for racing here in the Nations Cup World Finals. Let's guide you through there where we're going to be racing for the first time here tonight. It's the Fuji Speedway. It returns once again. We saw it, of course, with the GR Super GT Cup the other day. We're back in it once again, this time, though, in the GR Yaris.
Yeah, can't escape Fuji, can we? We've been here a ton of times in the last few weeks. As Tom said, yeah, the GR Yaris. So, first time Matt is going to be featuring in any of our events. Great to have it, of course, here. Racing hard and medium tyres being used. in this race with a weak slipstream, which means despite having the long straight there, overtaking and driving down the T1 might be challenging.
Yeah, you can see ×9 of tyre wear there. 2 compounds of tyre, hard and medium tyres available for the drivers to use. They must use at least each type of tyre once over the course of this one. So keen to see how the drivers are going to be faring here at the Fuji International Speedway. Anyway, qualifying is now underway for our drivers, so let's head over, shall we, catch the last 5 minutes of it and see what's happening out on track. Drivers there now on track for qualifying for race 1 of the Nations Cup World Final here at the Fuji International Speedway. Group 2 ready to head out. Here's Tomoyuki Yamanaka setting his lap time. He goes into 4th fastest currently. What about Andrew Brooks? He goes up into P4, demotes the Japanese driver on home soil down now into 5th position. So that's the first group then done here, Jimmy. The first 8 drivers out on track. We've got Beauvoir, Lukowski, Lopez, Serrano, Kokubun, Karatsa, Miyazono and Inestrosa to come here.
That's right, we do. Right now it's Mangano leading from Gallo and Rick Kevlin. Again, look how close that is. That is 0.03 of a second between first and third. And I looked it up the other day, by the way, when you asked about it. It's 1/10 of a second to blink. So a third of the time it takes you to blink. That is the gap right now between our top 3 drivers.
I'm looking forward to seeing what Baptiste Beauvoir can do. Of course, driver who we have held in very high esteem and was incredibly quick in the EMEA regional finals as well here in the GR Yaris. This, of course, a brand new car to GT Sport as well, and it's a car that you and I are particularly fond of.
We sat in it earlier. We had one here on our set, and because we're children, we sat in it and pretend to drive it around. We aren't allowed to start it. No, a man comes over and gives you a slap on the wrist if you start it. So, but very cool car again. Great to have it in GT Sport represented here. If you're unfamiliar, 4-wheel drive, 260 horsepower from a 3-cylinder, 1.6-litre engine. And pretty light as well, given it's a homologation special. I think it's like 1,300 kilos, 1280, something like that. Pretty rapid.
Yeah, exactly. It's been developed, of course, in conjunction with Toyota Gazoo Racing, the racing department within Toyota, and it's designed as a rally homologation special. As Jimmy said, the irony is it may not actually end up competing in rallies next year because they're going to continue with the same model, and then, of course, they go over to a new set of hybrid rules. But either way, it gives us a phenomenal road car here, and we've got Baptiste Beauvoir behind the wheel. So, of course, unlike what we have seen in the manufacturer series, these drivers actually only have the medium and the hard compound of tyres available to them in the first race. So lap times perhaps wouldn't be as quick as if they were on the softs.
No, but they are racing medium and racing hard tyres. Usually we see road cars a sport tyre being chosen, but this time we're being nice. We're giving them full racing slicks. They're going to get a lot of time out of this Yaris. As you can see there, Baptiste Beauvoir. Nice, neat tidy through there, Baptiste. Yes, there you go, nice. Now, these cars are prone to understeer, as you would imagine, from a 4-wheel drive car, which is basically when you turn into a corner and the car doesn't go where you want it to. It goes a bit wider than that. And you can avoid that in this car by using the brake to rotate, then having a nice soft application of the throttle. Here is Cody Nikolakowski, someone who we don't really know for his soft applications of the throttle, usually quite an aggressive driver, but not quite been on the pace recently in the last few series we've been in. And he's somebody who's been on every step of the podium apart from the top one.
Yes, exactly, and we know how quick he can be, of course, Cody Nikolakowski, but seems to have been a little bit off colour if we looked at this manufacturer series performance here very recently. Let's hope he can turn things around, though, in the Nations Cup. Someone who did impress us, the guy we just looked at a few moments ago, was Angel Inestrosa, the Chilean driver. Of course, won the manufacturer series with Porsche last year in the World Tour at Tokyo, put in a very strong performance with Porsche yesterday in the manufacturer series as well. Likewise, Adriano Karatsa, I think he's really got to be one to watch here for this.
I think so. I mean, Karatsa, Serrano as well, which said Miyazono, who is yet to do his qualifying lap. These are big names here. Lopez, we say usually a very quick guy. I think, strategy was on his side in the regionals. So I think maybe out on that pace he might not quite have the same level of speed as the top guys, but we all know sometimes it isn't about being the absolute fastest driver. Sometimes it's about being the smartest. So a couple of drivers now coming to the line, set their times. This is Baptiste Beauvoir. Let's see what he can do. A 1:49.6 to beat from Giorgio Mangano. He goes 2 tenths outside of that. That's good enough for 5th. Cody's a little bit further behind still, so expect 7th or 8th position from this time. It's a 1:59.7. Goes to, actually beats Baptiste. That's a faster for the line. Kokubun on the good lap as well.
Yeah, not bad here for Ryota Kokubun then as he heads towards the line. 10th of a second down here for him, so it could be inside the top 5 for the Japanese driver. He gets ready to come towards the timing line, breaks the beam now. Then where is Ryota going to go? It's a top 4 instead. Nicely done there for him. Angel Inestrosa, not a bad lap time so far for him. Couple of tenths of a second shy into the 3rd sector. gains a bit of time coming down the start-finish straight. It was Jose Serrano who was very quick in the first sector and the second sector, not far away in the third sector, loses a little bit of time, but look at that, just less than a tenth of a second away, and still it's only 4th position for him on the grid. Adriano Carrazza going for the line now here. Not a lap time to ride home about, just less than half a second, and he is down in 14th position on the grid. Koke Lopez, though, is the man who we're looking at now. 7th position for him. It's Takuma Miyazono. He was so quick in the first sector, fastest of the lot of them. Fastest in the second sector, fastest in the third sector. He heads towards the line now here at Fuji. Where is it going to be for the Japanese driver? Takuma Miyazono takes pole position at the end of the session. What a lap there for the Japanese driver on home soil here at Fuji Speedway. He obliterates the competition and takes P1. Well, news just in that Koke Lopez and Lucas Benelli have taken penalties after qualifying for exceeding the track limits on their only hot laps. That's going to spice things up, certainly, as we get ready to go racing here at the Fuji Speedway ahead of race 1 for the Nations Cup World Finals. The Fuji Speedway plays host to race 1 of the Nations Cup, a world final. The Toyota GR Yaris is the car. And we're here in Japan with a Japanese driver who starts on pole position. It's Takuma Miyazono who qualifies at the head of the field. Alongside him on the front row is the Italian Giorgio Mangano. What is he going to be able to do? Alongside him on the second row of the grid, it is Valerio Gallo, his fellow compatriot, with Rick Kevelam for company. The Dutchman lines up in P4. Third row is headed by Jose Serrano, P5 for him. Not a bad lap time at all there. And he has got Ryota Kokubun for company alongside. Next row of the grid is comprised of Angel Inestrosa, the Chilean driver, inside the top 10. With Koke Lopez, of course, taking that penalty after qualifying for exceeding track limits. He lines up P8. Andrew Brooks heads to the next row of the grid, just inside the top 10. And then completing that top 10 is Cody Nikola Lukovsky. Work to do for him from down there on the grid. Next up is Baptiste Beauvoir. Again, a difficult qualifying for the Frenchman. He needs to try and turn his fortunes around. Has got Tomoyuki Yamanaka for company alongside him. And the next row of the grid, Patrick Blajan, the Hungarian driver. And his countryman Adam Tapai alongside. And then the final row of the grid is comprised of Lucas Benelli, another driver who took that penalty, of course, following track limits in qualifying. Adriano Carrazza, his compatriot, completes the grid in 16th and last position. So then, ready for the start of this race. 13 laps ahead of it for our drivers at the Fuji International Speedway. Takuma Miyazono, Giorgio Mangano, Valerio Gallo and Rick Kevelam on the front 2 rows of the grid. What is going to happen down towards that first corner? We're about to find out. 5 red lights come on then here at the Fuji International Speedway. And racing is underway then. Takuma Miyazono leads the field away as we go down towards that first corner. Immediately cuts over from Giorgio Mangano. Keep an eye out for Valerio Gallo. Rick Kevelam trying to go for the inside line, but getting squeezed towards the inside of the circuit. Miyazono is having to try and defend, but Mangano's trying to come up the inside. In the background, you can see Serrano trying to go the long way around the outside, but not able to find a way through there. So Miyazono holds on from Mangano, from Gallo, from Kevelam, from Serrano, and Inestrosa is squabbling there with Kokubun for P6 as they come into turn 3.
Yeah, dream start there for Miyazono, getting that all done and dusted and getting into the lead on the first corner. He is being carried though by Mangano and Gallo there. Valerio Gallo, watch out for him. He likes to lead from the front, finally getting a good qualifying position this time around, so he might be able to do it. Goes for an attack on Giorgio Mangano, very late on the brakes, dives to the inside, gets a move made. I think he's going side by side with his fellow Italian, but Giorgio is not going to give up. More importantly, Mangano will have the inside line for the next corner.
And Mangano stays ahead into the next corner. It's down into turn 10 where we could see some dive bombs being made. It's one of the few overtaking opportunities here, and Gallo pulls out from Mangano. In the background there you can see Inestrosa having some contact there with Jose Serrano. It all concertinas up through that corner. Kevelam's now on the inside, contact there with Benelli as well. At the background he's got a track limit penalty, a 1-second penalty there as you can see. So Jose Serrano's on the inside of Rick Kevelam. Meanwhile, as we come through the final sector, Kevelam's going to switch it left and going to have the inside line for the next corner. Holds on for that 4th place. So we were mentioning about those drivers who got penalties. They are now serving that in the race, as it turns out.
So coming on now to the end of the final lap through the hairpin again. Getting a good run out of here is very important. Mangano about half a second back from Miyazono at the moment. Gallo there still holding on in 3rd, and Rick Kevelam in 4th, Serrano in 5th. little bit messy through the first lap. Everyone's trying to make the best use of being as close as possible in these first few laps to make up places. And Gallo and Stroza right up in the slipstream of Jose Serrano. Will he dive to the right and try and make a move? 240 kilometers an hour down the straight. This little Yaris really does shift, I tell you that now. Angelo and Stroza going for the move, a little bit late on the brakes there. Dive to the apex. Nice block pass there, you like to see that, and that slows Serrano right up. Kokeman nowhere to go. Contact with the back of a Spanish driver, and now slots him back behind.
Well, there we go. That could have been a lot nastier than it actually was. Good reactions there from Ryota Kokeman there to just keep off the back for the most part of Jose Serrano. As you say, nowhere to go there. Nothing that he could do. You see Koke Lopez with the red flashing dot next to you on the left-hand side of your screen. He has got Andrew Brooks and Patrick Blajan very close for company. Here's Serrano versus Kokeman part 2 then. Into the left-hander we go. The Spaniard just holding on a little bit wide, missing the apex. That allows Kokeman to pull alongside on corner exit. They run side by side. Then as they come out in towards the right-hander of turn number 9, headed down in towards turn 10. Serrano once again has the inside line coming down into here. Kokeman's got the outside line, has got good momentum though, goes the long way around the outside and is ahead before they get to the braking zone. Great driving here from Ryota Kokeman.
Yeah, really difficult to go 2 by 2 into there. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it if you're trying to catch the guys in front. Kokeman a little bit wide on the track limits there. Stewards will be having a look at that. The hazards were flashing for a second there on Kokeman's car. I think that's a message saying let's catch these guys. Let's not fight too much between us, because they both know that 6th and 7th don't really mean that much in the grand scheme of things. You want to be up towards the head of the field. We're still on board with Jose Serrano at the moment. A good look at the lines through this last corner. You see you take quite a shallow apex and you go, you run wide on the throttle. 4-wheel drive pushes the car wide towards the edge of the circuit, and that's how you get the best corner exit. But this little group now, as Koke Lopez serves his penalty there, this little group has fallen back from the top 5.
Meanwhile, you can see Blajan, Beauvoir and Lakovsky all under investigation for a collision. We didn't see what happened on the screen. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of a replay on that one a little bit later on. Steve, I wonder if you've got any information on that?
At the moment, no. I'm going to have to look through. I mean, I'm flicking through all the incidents. There's about 1 million at the moment, so I'm going to have a look through some of them and hopefully I can get back to you.
A nice, clean race start then, I think that's what Steve was trying to say. But I think that came on the first lap. We had the big sort of dog pile into the hairpin there. I think there were a couple of biffs that we didn't quite see. Hopefully Steve can sift through that for us. Meanwhile, back to the race. Gallo not quite able to challenge Mangala. Great to see Giorgio up there, isn't it? He's not usually been at the top of the field so far. And again, my favourite stat is that he was our first ever World Tour winner back in 2018. So maybe he can... repeat that success. Patrick Blajan, by the way, given a 3-second penalty for contact, so obviously being a little bit naughty.
Dear oh dear there for the Hungarian Patrick Blajan with that penalty. His countryman Adam Tapai down in 13th position there as well, so not a good race for the Hungarian drivers as it stands. You can see Mangano is really close onto the back of Takuma Miyazono in this middle sector of the lap as we head in towards the final sector now then. One wonders whether Mangano is going to try and mount a challenge. Just to remind you, of course, the drivers who have started on the medium should be a little bit quicker at the start of this race, but we are expecting pit stops to take place in the mid stages around about lap 6 or 7 or so is when we should see drivers changing over towards the harder compound of tyres. But let's see what is going to happen here over the course of this one and see how it develops.
Right now, of those hard runners, Andrew Brooks is leading that little pack. He's made his way nicely up through the field there, which is a good start for Andrew Brooks. He's definitely an outside shot as well. Watch him. He's always been incredibly fast in the past, but unfortunately is usually on the receiving end of quite a bit of bad luck. Here is the view on board from Jose Serrano. That's a rather big back end there of the Toyota in front, isn't it? Thick's thick. Love the back of that Toyota, but Serrano not really able to find anywhere by. The slipstream, whilst it is there, not really enough to be able to pull alongside and do anything.
It's a flipping long straight, this, of the Fuji Speedway. Oh, somebody missing the apex there. That was that looks like it was Yamanaka who was checking out the scenery.
That's
here.
Brooks.
It was Brooks, in fact, yeah, going a little bit wide into that first corner, just checking out the scenery going into turn number 1. They gather things up without losing too much time, but that's not the line you want to be having through those first couple of corners here.
He actually lost the place there, Tom, to Yamanaka, so he went wide. Yamanaka took the place, and now he's leading the sort of second group of runners on the hard tyre, so easy to do that down there. We saw it the other day with Gallo and the Supras, where he just missed the braking zone somewhat and he's just a passenger until the car finally slows down.
Steve, I believe you got some information on the collision between Beauvoir, Lakovsky and also Patrick Blajan there.
Yeah, just had a look at the replay. It was Blajan down into turn 10, which we're looking at now, and he just went for a very overly ambitious dive.
Here we go.
And you can see it here, yeah, and the result of it is Beauvoir is down the back of the field 4 seconds off the pack.
Oh, look at
wow.
that. Yeah,
Off he goes.
Straight over the front nose of the Japanese driver there as well, and turned around. Oh dear, not good there for Baptiste Beauvoir. Writes a penalty there, good call from the stewards, in my opinion. Meanwhile, here he is, Takuma Miyazono, who we ride on board with, still with Giorgio Mangano for company. These drivers just running so close to one another, and that's the thing when we have just one car type in the race, in that it's essentially spec racing this, it does come down a lot to driver ability.
Well, it is spec racing. We've had this conversation before about how these drivers are so at the top of their game that everybody is braking at the latest possible point, getting on the front as soon as possible. And when that happens, of course, it makes it quite difficult to make any moves. Speaking of moves, here comes Giorgio Mangano, who for now is opting to stay where he is. I think that's a bit of clever driving there by Giorgio. He knows that he can't win the race on lap 5, so he's going to try and stay with him. I say that. He then dives up the inside. I'll be quiet. Giorgio goes for the lead, then up into first place he goes, and now he'll be giving the tow on the way around. Is Giorgio going to have enough pace to get away from Miyazono, though?
Just to mention, fuel shouldn't be too much of a concern, so it's not like he needs to sit behind him in order to save fuel over the course of this one. They can drive pretty much flat out from start to finish, but now Miyazono's got to keep a watchful eye on his mirrors, because the other Italian in this race, Valerio Gallo, is all over the rear bumper of his GR Yaris, and I wonder whether the Italians are going to try and make a break for it. Down the inside dives Gallo into the left-hander, and into second position he goes. So it's now the Italians leading 1 and 2. Mangano ahead of Gallo, a little bit wide on the exit there for Gallo. Miyazono pulls back alongside, or at least tries to, has to come back into the slipstream as they head down into T10.
That's interesting there. All of a sudden, Miyazono dropping off the pace, it seems, down to third, but Mangano and Gallo now up into first and second. Again, keep an eye out for Gallo. He's been so fast tonight, almost untouchable in the online series. Yep, in these events, he always seems to struggle somewhat, but we know he likes to lead from the front of the race. He's now there with his fellow countryman, Giorgio Mangano. This is where he's going to be at his strongest, so keep an eye out for the Italian there.
Yeah, Valerio Gallo, of course, a driver who we hold in very high esteem and was level pegging with Baptiste Beauvoir for the majority of the EMEA regional finals. Made a complete haulings of the last race, unfortunately, and the results don't really do him justice if you look at where he finished over in the overall standings there. But he's here in these races, and he's proving exactly why he is here in these races, fighting at the sharp end of the field.
And this is peak Beauvoir, unfortunately, in these races, to find himself 4 seconds off the back after a crash that isn't his fault. That's happened a couple of times to him as well, and I'm sure there'll be some choice French words being uttered at the moment. But still in the race, of course, we have 3 races today. First 2 double points, and the last race being double points, so still everything to play for. On board Miyazono as we come down towards T1. You see his braking inputs there on the left, his throttle inputs on the right, and just as I say, the director takes it away. But it's really interesting to just see how these guys drive, the techniques that are involved in getting these cars around the circuit in the fastest way possible. There is Miyazono then coming into 100R, this long right-hander, and in this car, I'll be honest, it's not very fun in this car because of the understeer, because of the four-wheel drive. You can see how careful you've got to be in that frontal pedal there.
Yeah, it's like pushing a shopping trolley around that's completely full. It just understeers and understeers and understeers all over the place. Just having a look, you can see from the wide shot we saw a few moments ago, the gap from 7th place back to Tomoyuki Yamanaka. So the top 7 are essentially running nose to tail in this race, and then there's quite a pronounced gap, 4.2 seconds as it stands between them and Tomoyuki Yamanaka, which brings up the next gap. So we've kind of got splinter groups as we're used to seeing in these races. That's kind of what happens in these spec races. You see them splintering off as they have done, but it's a big old group at the front of this field.
Well, yeah, it's just medium versus hard runners, and that will probably switch over when the pit stops come. Now, if you're on that medium tyre, you want to try and make it go as quick as you can, and maybe against logic, you will run the medium tyre longer than you run the hard tyre, because the hard tyre is just that much slower that you want to try and... Basically, the hard tyre is lava. Think of it that way. You don't want to be on it at all. On board now from Mangano, getting a look back from the rear quarter panel. You see the big train of cars behind Mount Fuji, very picturesque in the background there. You don't have much time to stop and admire the view when you're ragging a car around here. There's a big line of cars down the straight, all slipstreaming each other at this point. Now I'm interested to see what Miyazono's going to do here, because he was leading this pack a couple of laps ago. Now he's down in 3rd. Maybe it's his turn to play the racing game.
It could well be. Yeah, let's see what happens. We're definitely in the pit window now. We're expecting drivers to come in, and some of them have done. The hard tyre runners now coming in, all switching over to mediums. Benelli and Beauvoir on the last lap, laps 5. At the end of that, they came in to change over their tyres. Now it is the rest of the hard runners, pretty much, bar Tapai and Lukovsky, as you can see, who have all come in to change over to the medium compound. Just looking at Tomoyuki Yamanaka, putting a new set of medium boots on his car, ready to come out of the pit lane. Where is he going to emerge as it stands? Out in P10. There is Baptiste Beauvoir, meanwhile, Michael, who has, of course, made his mandatory pit stop in this race already. He was quite a way further down the field, so probably felt as though he had to do something different to try and break up some ground.
Steve, mate, you've been watching some of the strategies here and some of the drivers. What have you got for us?
Yeah, it just looks like at the moment it's one of those trains that we often see, and it's really a case of who's going to blink first. Now, all of the hard runners just did 6 laps. At the end of this 7th lap, there's going to be 6 laps left of the race, so it'd be interesting to see if the medium runners come in at the end of this one.
Well, you can see the live points rankings on the right-hand side of the screen. Cheers for that insight there, Steve. You can see Takuma Miyazono, of course, he came into this World Final, has come into this World Final with the most advantage. 11 points he has gained as a result of his positions in the regional finals, and, of course, carrying over some points as well from Sydney earlier on this year. Now sits, as it stands, if the race finished as it was, with 19 points, but, of course, he'd like to get as much of an advantage as possible going into races 2 and 3. But the crucial question is here, are we going to see anybody coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap? All moving over towards the right-hand side of the circuit. Is anybody going to make any moves coming into the pit lane? Takuma Miyazono is, and there's a train of cars following them in the form of Kevelam, Inestrosa, Kokubun and Serrano. So it's only the top 2 that stay out again.
You might be thinking, well, online at home, if I were to dive into the pit lane, I wouldn't make it so obvious. But here there are some very strict rules around white lines that we saw a little bit in the regional finals, especially here at Fuji. So the 2 Italians are left out on their own at the front on that medium tyre. So they're going to have the lap of their lives now, because although they are going for a harder compound of tyre, Miyazono and the gang behind, their tyres will be fresher. They'll be a little bit quicker at this point as well, so we might be seeing the undercut, if you're familiar, of course, with Formula 1 and that term. So here's Miyazono, the train of cars behind, Inestrosa, Kevelam, Kokubun and Serrano in that train. Again, great to see Gallo Inestrosa doing so well.
I think Inestrosa might have made a mistake. He's gone onto the medium compound of tyres. He's gone onto the mediums. He's done exactly what Igor Fraga did at this very circuit in Paris last year. Changed over from the compound onto exactly the same compound. So he's going to have to make another pit stop, and it's thrown away all of the hard work that Inestrosa has made here. Dives down the inside of Rick Kevelam for P4, but it's all going to be in vain here for the Chilean driver, as he's now going to have to make another pit stop.
I'm laughing because that was actual peak commentator curse there. That was proper. You just got that wrong, Jimmy. But he was doing well. Unfortunately, making the mistake there. Anyway, we'll come back to Miyazono. Really, he wouldn't have to worry about Inestrosa in that case behind him. But if anything, that'd be doing him a bit of a favour. He'll be breaking up the cars behind him whilst driving through. I'm looking to his driver cam to see if there's any sort of reaction from him. He doesn't look particularly happy, from what I can see. So we have sometimes had errors in the past with graphics, but it does look like this time it is just a mistake from his part. It seems to happen at Fuji, doesn't it?
Yeah, just looking at the timing screen and confirmation that he is definitely on the medium compound of tyres, so not good at all there for Angel Inestrosa. Now the 2 leaders, Mangano and Gallo, come into the pit lane then. They're going to go onto the hard compound of tyre. Where are they going to emerge as a result of their pit stops then? Let's see what's going to happen. They're coming into the pit lane now, but the race leaders are already coming down the start-finish straight, so the Italians could end up at the back of this group here. Let's see what is going to happen with them as they come round, and I'm fairly certain that they're going to be overhauled by them, or at least it's going to be very close. They come out of the pit lane then. Look at this side-by-side between Miyazono and Inestrosa, and here comes Gallo and Mangano out of the pit lane then. This is super close, but somehow Mangano and Gallo hold on. Here's Inestrosa on the inside of Gallo. He goes through into second place at the exit of turn 1, and now look in the background because Miyazono fancies a slice of the action up the hill in towards turn 3. Miyazono not able to find a way past, but Gallo losing a position to Inestrosa.
Inestrosa there just sneaking on through, making the use of that medium tyre. Now he's going to go after Mangano as well. Again, this is actually a bit of a godsend for Miyazono behind, because he's going to be just disturbing the cars in front, which is going to allow Miyazono to get that a little bit closer as we come through the middle section now, down the hill towards the hairpin. You want to be on the right-hand side here if you're going for an overtaking manoeuvre. A great place if you're good on the brakes to chuck it up the inside, but Miyazono not quite close enough for that. Will Inestrosa have a go, though? He's sort of got to just go for it now and hope for the best. I don't think if this is on purpose that this strategy is the way to go, as he jumps up the inside of Mangano, forces him onto the curb. They're still side by side, and Inestrosa comes out worse there, and Gallo's going to get back by. Absolute disaster for Inestrosa, but he's not going to take that line down. Lunges up the inside now. He's on the wrong side for the next left-hander coming up. He's going to get hit wide. Just contact there. And, yep, Inestrosa down to third.
Sorry to cut in front of you there, Jimmy. It's all so frantic, this one, isn't it? And he just needed to be patient there in Estrosza. He just wasn't. He tried to get a bit greedy coming into there, and it cost him more than he gained.
It happens sometimes, and again, this is a bit of a disaster for Estrosza. If he is planning this strategy, he needs to be at the front now and putting away, and that is not happening. So at this rate, he'll be far, far down the pack when all the pit stops are done.
Meanwhile, here is Cocoburn versus Jose Serrano coming down the start-finish straight, coming in towards the business end of this race. Steve, I mean, Jimmy briefly mentioned there about the possibility of this strategy being on purpose. I can't see a way that that's going to be the case here for him. What do you reckon here for Estrosza?
I think he's just made a mistake. It takes about 18 seconds to do a pit stop, so unless he can somehow gain 18 seconds or about 9 seconds per lap in the next 2 laps, I don't think it's going to work out for him.
If he was in the Red Bull X 2019, I'd say, yeah, no problem, but maybe not.
It's going to work out, unfortunately, for him.
Not this time. That's a shame for Angel, but we'll focus on the leader instead. Mangano and Gallo, 2 Italians. This is a good show up for the Italian drivers, isn't it? This could be a 1-2 here in the first round of the World Final Nations Cup here as Gallo defends from Estrosza. Obviously very frustrating to have to deal with Estrosza knowing that he won't be there at the end of the race, but of course doing his best to try and disturb the rest of the drivers at the moment. It's going to be Mangano leads down the hill again, Gallo behind. Will Estrosza go for another move this time? Let's have a look. Coming downhill, Gallo goes defensive, drives down the middle of the circuit, comes back across to take the race, and now Serrano in the background tries to get by Cocoburn. Cocoburn moved quite late there to defend, so I'm interested to see if he does get by. Serrano manages to sneak by on the outside, is driven onto the curb by Cocoburn, and Yamanaka is going to take both of them and run the foul sweep while they were busy squabbling between them, but they didn't see the samurai in the mirror, and he slides by up into 6th place.
Lovely job there. Here comes Andrew Brooks now on the inside of Cocoburn into the left-hander. Is the Canadian going to be able to get through? He's not going to have track position, but Cocoburn runs out of room, he runs out of road, he's off the track, he's back on, he's back into 8th position there. Did he use the circuit to gain an advantage? Did he just run a little bit wide as he understeered through that corner? We'll wait and see whether the stewards have to have a look at it. Don't think they'll be deciding that too much. Meanwhile, coming over the timing line, the race leaders, Giorgio Mangano versus Valerio Gallo. Angel Estrosza here in 3rd position, and surely he knows he's got a pit, he knows he's going to have made that mistake, and he knows he's going to have to go by before too long. Meanwhile, here is Gallo versus Mangano for the race lead, and Estrosza's going to join the party as well. Side by side with the 2 Italians down to the first corner. Mangano on the inside, Gallo on the outside, late on the brakes from Gallo. Mangano's got the apex though. Gallo's a little bit wide through there, but he holds firm, and he gets the race lead then as they come side by side up the hill into T3.
I think Mangano may be a little bit cautious because he thought Estrosza was going to come by as well, and as a result Gallo managed to go all the way around the outside and get the position. Great overtaking move from Gallo, and now he is in the lead of this race, exactly where he likes to be. So let's see if he can defend it. 2 laps to go at this point. Again, Estrosza still in the mix there in that medium compounder tyre. We expect him to have to pit towards the end. Maybe a bit of contact between him and Mangano now as we come again down the hill towards the right hand. A fantastic overtaking spot, and Estrosza all over the back of Giorgio Mangano as we now descend down to the hairpin. Gallo goes defensive, he wants to try and keep his lead. Mangano then is going to go up the inside once again. Can he outbrake Gallo? No, he can't, has to slot back in, and Estrosza has no option but to do the same.
Steve, this is getting pretty frenetic at the front of this race. What are you thinking of it?
It's just absolutely brilliant racing. I was just looking at that Yamanaka move a couple of laps ago on the last lap. It just shows you these guys are on such a fine line. If you're going to go for a move, you have to make sure it works. Otherwise, the guy behind is just going to take advantage and go past the pair of you.
That's how it is round here, yeah. It's just a matter of trying to keep things nice and neat and tidy. Otherwise, hello, what's this? Gallo's gone wide, he's bottled it. Estrosza's going to go up the inside, and Mangano goes up into 1st as well. Gallo's going to have the toe down the straight behind his countryman, and Gallo, interestingly, decides to give the toe to Estrosza instead. He does not. He is racing Gallo here as hard as possible. Doesn't matter that they're from the same country. Look at this. It's pack racing, just like stock cars down the straight, and Mangano leading the pack. Gallo trying to get a little bit of that side draft. They're boxing Estrosza in at the moment. Will Gallo go for a repeat move of last time around? Looks around to the outside again. Doesn't quite have the same pace as last time. It's gone wide there, and Estrosza's going to take that place if he's not careful.
Very close on the corner exit, but just manages to hold it firm there, does Valerio Gallo. Coming up in the hill in towards turn 3. It's getting so close out in front. We're on the penultimate lap. We're going to flick it left. Here's the point standings. If the race finishes as it is, they're about as useful as a chocolate teapot, though, at the moment, because the race is definitely going to change the order before before the end of this one. Here's Inestrosa having a little bit of a look against Valerio Gallo. Gallo's out wide, scrubbing speed off, understeering through there. He has to go defensive into the left-hander as they come through now. Inestrosa's going to have more grip underneath him with the medium competitive tyre, and certainly keep an eye out for Tomoyuki Yamanaka in the background, who's going side by side with Miyazono. Yamanaka, of course, started on the hard tyre. He's now on the medium tyre. He's going to be quicker than the lot of these front competitors, and surely he is going to be a very worthy adversary coming into these final few corners and the last couple of laps.
Miyazono doing what he does best there and just sending it in alongside Inestrosa just to make him look, and Yamanaka now finding the space where there wasn't it, and he made the space. Up the inside goes Yamanaka on that medium compounder tyre. He is a real threat for the win of this race if he can get by Inestrosa. Miyazono now having to defend from Serrano, who goes out wide to that the inside though for the next right-hander. Rick Kevelam getting involved as well, and all of a sudden the race comes alive. Kevelam dives to the inside with Andrew Brooks as well. Serrano has to let them by on the outside, a bit of a bump as well, and you see now 2 by 2 going down the straight.
This is going to be so close then, coming down this start-finish straight for the penultimate time, and I wonder how many people will be trying to rehearse something for the final lap then, as we come on to that then. So it's Mangano that leads the way from Gallo, from Yamanaka. Inestrosa does finally pit. He gets himself out of this group onto the hard tyre for the final lap, but look at the race lead then. It's going to potentially change hands with Mangano versus Gallo, going side by side. Gallo on the inside, Mangano on the outside, 3 wide nearly in the background, as Gallo's up the inside, and he's through into the race lead out of turn 1.
Watch Yamanaka, he is on a charge right now on that medium compounder tyre. These two squabbling have slowed them both up and put them into the clutches of Yamanaka behind. There you go, coming through the left-hander into 100R for the last time. And this is where the tyres on Yamanaka's GR Yaris are going to be much fresher, much better than the cars in front. Let's see if he can make a move down into this left-hander. Both of them sort of taking a semi-defensive line, cutting over late, and you see the speed difference on the apex there. Yamanaka just able to carry so much more pace through the corner and puts himself in a very aggressive position coming down to the end of the lap.
So coming through then into the right-hander, ready to head into turn 10. He needs to be very careful about how he picks off Mangano and Gallo if that's his plan. Coming down into T10, he's going to go for the move on second place. Up the inside goes Tomoyuki Yamanaka. Mangano defends it, he squeezes into the apex then. They're going to flick it left, but Yamanaka's got so much great grip coming through there, but he runs out of road. There was contact between them. Here comes Serrano on the outside then, nearly side by side as well with Yamanaka. Here's Kevelam on the inside, and he's through. So Yamanaka loses out then. Serrano is now into third place, and he's in the pound seat here. It's given enough of a gap for Gallo to able to clear off in front without too much drama. Mangano, though, in second place is on the defensive, and look at this up the inside, nearly Yamanaka. Oh, and Lopez up the inside of Yamanaka into the final corner as well. This is phenomenal. Gallo is going to take the win in race 1 of the Nations Cup here at Fuji, but who is going to get second place? It's a drag to the line between Mangano and Serrano then here at Fuji. What a race this has proven to be. Gallo takes the flag from Mangano in second, and Serrano in third ahead of Kevelam, Brooks, Lopez and Yamanaka. What a race!
I'm telling you now, there are going to be a lot of post-race investigations there, because Coco Lopez, to say the overtake was fair, that'd be a lie. He just chucked it in there, smashed Yamanaka off the line, and Yamanaka, who could have won this race, I think also he got forced out by Giorgio Mangano there, and as a result just tumbled down the order. I think he finished 7th in the end, and for someone who was challenging for the win, I think he really got done dirty there.
Yeah, that didn't work out at all there for Tomoyuki Yamanaka, but what a race for Valerio Gallo. You can't doubt his credentials in this one. An Italian 1-2 with Gallo finishing ahead of Mangano and Serrano completing the podium. Well, we've just about got our breath back then from that fantastic race 1, but race 2 is on the way very shortly indeed for the Nations Cup World Finals. We're at the Tokyo Expressway in the wet in Porsche 911s. It is going to be chaotic, I am sure, with 16 drivers all trying to battle for the same piece of tarmac. Speaking of battling for the same piece of tarmac, race 1 was exactly that at Fuji.
Yeah, standing start here. Great to see that, of course. Gave us some great action down at T1, but it took 5 laps for Giorgio Mangano to finally get by Takuma Miyazono, the pole sitter. It was very quickly followed through by fellow countryman Valerio Gallo.
Meanwhile, you can see towards the closing stages of the race, Angel Inestrosa on the medium compound of tyre. That was a strategy strategy mistake, he would have to pit and then would be out of this squabble for the race lead. Meanwhile, Giorgio Mangano versus Valerio Gallo. They went side by side down the start-finish straight and into the first corner. Gallo, amazingly, managing to hold it all the way around the outside to the first turn. Proper commitment.
Yeah, great respect between the two drivers there. You have to have that, otherwise that ends in tears. And that move would happen pretty much exactly the same on the lap after, this time with Angel and Estroza still in the mix despite the strategy mistake. But then on the last lap, Yamanaka tried going for a move on Mangano and then just got completely shuffled down. Yoda Serrano getting by, Kevlin getting by, and Yamanaka would end up finishing a lowly 7th place.
Valerio Gallo taking the spoils at the checkered flag ahead of Giorgio Mangano and Jose Serrano. You can see the rest of the drivers coming through, and exactly what that race result meant for Valerio Gallo to take the spoils in race 1 of the Nations Cup World Finals. He sits at the top of the pile after that one, then ahead of Giorgio Mangano, Jose Serrano, Rick Kevlin somehow inheriting 4th on the final lap ahead of Andrew Brooks. A solid start for the Canadian. Lopez, Yamanaka, Kokubun and Miyazono inside the top 10, with Lakowski rounding it out. Tapai, Benelli, Karatza, Blajan and Beauvoir down in 15th position. Goodness me. This is going to be exciting to see what it means later on here today, because this is the points rankings, of course, that reflects the results in the first race to an extent, of course, because some have World Tour points. So, for example, Valerio Gallo now sits with 17 points, 2 points ahead of Jose Serrano.
Yeah, very close at the top at the moment. It will be, of course, till we get going. Race 2 coming up very shortly. Another 12 points up for grabs, with double points, of course, in our final race. So far from over.
Well, let's head over to Julia then, shall we? She is with our race 1 winner, Valerio Gallo.
Hey, Valerio, how are you doing after that race? That was intense. You and Mangano, I thought you were going to do something, and then someone's going to spin up. My heart is racing. How's your heart doing?
My heartbeat is exploding right now. I can't even talk because I'm so stressed. So, man, yeah.
Yeah?
Very tough.
How did you keep your focus when your heart is racing like that? How do you keep technical in your driving when literally your entire body is like, ah?
Yeah, because I know that if I get lost from the pressure, I will really lose the control and also lose all the, let's say, sometimes even the memory of what you do. So let's say, it's really hard because I had a lot of cars to fight with, and it's a really particular situation.
It got really weird there. There was literally just all boxed in, stock rally racing cars all together. It was so close at some points. It was just, I don't know how you kept your cool. I mean, how did you decide how far to push it against Mangano? I mean, you want to obviously, how far do you know how to push it without, pushing it too far and making a mistake?
Let's say, as from Giorgio, when he overtook Miyazono, I thought, okay, let's stay behind him because otherwise we lose time fighting each other. So in the last laps, let's say I tried the overtake because I knew with the slipstream it's very easy to overtake.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, I had to say, it was a really close racing, but very tough. Even if I feel like I could maybe leave a little bit of space more to Giorgio, but it was so intense. Also the tire wear, it was so serious at that moment. So.
I mean, this is the thing, I think a lot of people look at, Gran Turismo, sim racing and think oh, just driving. You have to think about a lot of things all at once. I don't know how you do it, but whatever you did this time, it totally worked because here you are. You've just got to keep that focus going into the next race. So good luck, Valerio, and hopefully we'll get to have another chat again in a few minutes.
Thank you.
It's about time in the show where we lean on our expert, Jimmy Broadbent, to give us some tips and techniques. I believe this time for Tokyo Expressway. Is that right there, Jimmy?
Yeah, that's right, Julia. The guys behind the scenes have been very mean to me, and they're giving me a Group 3 car with no traction control in the wet at Tokyo Expressway. So we're going to do our best to try and show you around. Luckily, I had Steve with me a bit earlier on to give me some more tips. But, of course, wet weather, which means very slippy, very slidey. So nice and easy on the loud pedal on the right. If you don't know where that is, then maybe you need to go back to basics first. And now we go down the very, very long start-finish straight here. This is when you can check your socials, check in with your mum, see how she's doing, bring her a cup of tea if you fancy it. More importantly, check out the gap behind you, because if you're one of our Nations Cup finalists today, this is a place where you can slipstream by someone, then be slipstreamed by them, and then slipstream them again down into T1. So it's a proper high-speed chess game down here, as you can see. 6th gear all the way down, back out the tunnel, back into the wet. Wipers there going. Now, our first braking zone of the course is coming up on the left-hand side. I want to brake just after the 150, about 125 or so. So we're going to aim to do that well, all the way to the left-hand side of the circuit. Hammer the brakes. A bit early, carry third through there. 2nd gear is a little bit aggressive, that understeer there in the wet weather. Get back downhill, brake early. Try and focus on getting a nice straight line out of the corner, because if you're accelerating while turning, you're more likely to spin it, which I've done many times in practice. But ignore that. Through this fast section now, really fun section in the dry, treacherous in the wet, especially when you're racing with 11 other cars around you. Nice and easy through here. Now we start to slow it down a bit. The corner opens up quite a bit though on exit, so you can take some speed through here. Aim for the wall, but don't touch it. This right-hander goes on for a very long time. Very late turning point here. Again, you can open up the corner quite a lot on the exit, so get on the throttle nice and early. Trust the grip will be there, even in these wet conditions. It's down another gear. There you go. So really the ideal line round here is just to aim at the walls. It sounds quite counterproductive when you put it like that, but aim to get near them, not to touch them. Easy, easy, easy. And now we come back to where you started, where we came back on board for the final corner. Braking is super important here. It's also one of the best overtaking zones on the circuit. So we're going to try and brake just before this green sun up above here. There you go. Brake in the straight line too. Now you could use 1st gear here to turn, but I'd recommend 2nd on exit, because you get loads and loads of wheel spin, which is not fun. And then get your paper out, get comfy, drive to the line. Takes a while to get there, but that is essentially a lap of Tokyo in the wet. And do you fancy a go, Jules? It's pretty fun.
I mean, yeah, you know what? I think it'd be fine. There's enough straights on there I could probably manage in my heels. Yeah?
No.
Yeah? Oh.
I've seen you drive.
To be fair, Jimmy, the only time you've actually seen me driving was in high heels in a Porsche GT3 car at like the 2018 finals. So I don't really feel like that's a fair representation of my full driving repertoire. I just feel like I should say that now. Now, speaking of a driver who is much more capable than I am, Coque Lopez. Now, I sort of feel like in the first race he didn't really kind of get the wind in his sails as he usually does. So I do think in race 2 he's going to be one to look out for. And if you don't know too much about him, take a look at this.
If I was in baseball, maybe I would try to spy someone that I really like to the girls' room. I cannot say that, no? I'm Coque Lopez, I'm from Spain, and I'm currently driving for Williams eSport team. My year is being different because of COVID, so I've been training more than other years. I could describe myself as a hardworking person, persistent and strategist. It's okay, no? My favorite food is, of course, bread. I think the nerves you feel when you are before the race is what I miss more. The live event is much more different than at home. My favorite GT car is the Super Formula SF19. My favorite GT track, there are 2, but Barcelona, of course, because it's Spain, and also Autopolis. There are 2 moments from 2019 which are my favorites. One is when I did the pole position in the Nürburgring World Tour, but the other one is when I got the 2nd place for BMW in the Manufacturer Series at Tokyo. My goal for this year is to try to improve the result of last year. Now it's time maybe to fight for the podium. My biggest addiction is having fun. I could say all the Gran Turismo players to give a try to the FIA championships, because they are so fun. When you race, you start to get more comfortable with the racing. So let's try to fight and make it all together.
Coque Lopez has to be one of the most dedicated Gran Turismo drivers we have. I don't think he will ever not be doing this, because that's how much he loves it. Speaking of which, though, why don't we see just how he does in race 2? Let's find out. Let's go over to Tom and Jimmy.
Yeah, cheers, Julia. Nice to hear there from Coque Lopez, getting a bit more background information on the speedy Spaniard.
Yeah, exactly. Not really the best race for him there, but a good recovery, I think, after that penalty in qualifying.
And a couple more opportunities for him to try and turn things around there as well. Race 2 is coming up very, very shortly. Let's take a look, shall we, at the circuit details. We are at the Tokyo Expressway. This is a fictional track on GT Sport, being based kind of around the real world of Tokyo, essentially. You can see there, it's got a long straight, it's got a few corners, it's got some fast and flowing, and some slow ones there as well.
The straight is long enough to do a lot of things down there. You can basically slipstream someone, be slipstream back, and then overtake them again in the slipstream down the T1. So strategy is going to be a big deal around it. And of course, in the wet as well, there is no room for error here. There's no runoff, there's no grass, just barriers to greet you when you make a mistake.
Yeah, 13 laps for our drivers, a rolling start, which hopefully will stop them wheel spinning away too much away from the grid, because otherwise I think they'd probably all be phasing the wrong way and we'd be looking at the backside of a Porsche.
Well, I reckon we're going to see someone out anyway, actually, to be honest, but should be a good one here, I reckon.
Race 2 qualifying then is underway. 5 minutes now remaining of the session. The first lap times for the first group of drivers coming in then. This is the Tokyo Expressway in absolutely sopping wet conditions. Patrick Blajan hits the top of the pile. What about Adam Tapai? Nothing to write home about for him because he's 4.5 tenths adrift in that third sector, and it's just one big long straight. Does manage to gain a bit of time back. Only goes 4th quickest, the slowest out of all the runners who have set a time then.
Yeah, interesting circuit round here for qualifying. It's all about being smooth, and qualifying usually is about maximum attack, as Benelli slots into 4th place. Valerio Gallo, our race 1 winner, he want to try and repeat a decent result in this qualifying session, and he does, up into 2nd place, just behind Patrick Blajan, who took the provisional pole for now. Here's Smoky Yamanaka, who had an awful time at the end of the last race. I mean, again, that one's going to be continuing too, because he's a second off the pace at the moment, comes across the line and actually 7th place by quite a way.
Dear oh dear, this could be potentially back of the grid for Tomoyuki Yamanaka, depending on what happens. Andrew Brooks goes up into P2. Nice job from the Canadian driver, just under 2 tenths of a second shy from the rest of the field. Now, Baptiste Beauvoir, these are the drivers on their in the second group, ready on their warming up laps to set their first flying laps. What about Baptiste then? I mean, he had a shocker in that first race, which didn't feature at all after contact in the opening stages.
Yeah, not really sure what's happened with Baptiste. He was so quick in the online series, and he's come here and just not really performed in the way we expect him to. It's a great onboard shot though, what it's like to try and tackle this Tokyo course in the wet, in this Porsche 911. It's a Group 3 car. You don't tend to run traction control just to help you rotate a bit better as well. You see a lot of his corners, they're blind. Chuck the car in, you have to know where the corner opens up to, and the layout, of course, of the course to make sure you get the best possible line through here. So soft on the throttle, as soon as you put it in the straight line, nail the power, and now look to above your head now, looking for a place to brake. You can brake up around this green sign coming up. Hit the brakes nice and hard, try and brake in a straight line here, and then take a long, wide line and focus entirely on the exit. You can see they're both wide, going a little bit too wide. Straighten up in a straight line on the throttle there. The rear doesn't quite grip as he wants it to, and now it's a drive to the line.
So Beauvoir then ready to start his first flying lap. Just saw Ryota Kokubun as well coming in towards that final corner as he gets ready to start his flying lap then. So Baptiste Beauvoir comes into the tunnel, and it's interesting here because of course there's no water into the tunnel. There's a blaze of water though as you come out of it and on to start this lap. So the tunnel, the timing line is actually in the tunnel, and he'll come out of it again to come down toward that first corner. So Baptiste Beauvoir then ready to try and line things up into the spray, into the daylight, to start his first and only flying lap here then within this session. Once to watch in this one, I reckon Cody Nikolinikovsky, he can be quite handy in the wet conditions. And Helena Stroza, he knows this Porsche 911 pretty well, so he can be pretty quick too.
He also needs to have a good result after race 1, taking 0 points from the first round. A big lot of understeer there for Beauvoir at T1. That's very easy to do, and likely will put him a couple of attempts down before the lap's even really started. It's Ryota Kokubun as well. Of course, Japanese driver on home soil. Braking just after the 150 marker coming into T1. Best place to try and slow the car down. It's also uphill as well, so you can, even in the wet conditions, you can afford to brake a little bit later, let gravity do a little bit of the braking for you. Here's Jose Serrano, someone who's had a lot of talk about him. Very, very quick guy in the run-up to this event. Again, not quite able to perform in race 1, but still 2 races to go.
Yeah, a bit of a qualifying specialist is Jose Serrano, so expected to be pretty quick. Don't worry too much, by the way, about the first sector times, because, of course, it's just a straight line, essentially. There's nothing really to be lost or gained through there. It's in the corners where these drivers are going to be gaining or losing the maximum amount of time. Here is Koke Lopez, then. He's on his flying lap. Just having a look at the sector times, then, that are coming through for these drivers. And here is Takuma Miyazono. He's ready to start his first flying lap. Baptiste Beauvoir, he'll be making his way pretty far now through this lap, coming into, in fact, the final corner. He's 0.3 of a second shy as it stands at the moment, so it's not been particularly that much of an exciting lap here for the Frenchman. Let's have a look at his line then into this final corner. Jimmy was saying about taking a nice wide line through there. You can see that quite deep. Yeah, he's just not turning at all. Just doesn't want to grip up, does it, that front end in any way, shape or form. And then you can see him getting the power on, just sliding the rear, and you can see how much time he's lost as a result of that understeer there.
Yeah, it's difficult in this. You want to try and rotate the car early, which might sound counterproductive for the wet, but you need to get the car turning. If you leave it to the last minute like that, you see what happens. If the front tyres do not bite, and you end up just waiting, really, until you finally get the bite and then get the car to turn. And here's Cody, 4 temps down, so not quite where he'd want to be, but it should put him a little bit further up the order. So no, only good enough for 8th place. Meanwhile, Ryota Kokubun on a flyover lap right now, up at the 2nd sector. Will he be able to carry that to the line for the 3rd? Will he take pole position away from Patrick Blajan? Let's find out.
Over the line he comes, and he does. Brilliant stuff there for Ryota Kokubun then. Fantastic lap time for him. Angel Estrose is just 0.2 seconds shy. This could be a good qualifying for him. Puts him up into P4 then. Not bad at all. Jose Serrano, though, is on a charge. He comes to the line, and Serrano, once again, on pole position as it stands. Phenomenal lap from the Spaniard here. Adriano Carrazza, nothing really to write home about, but what a lap there from the Spaniard.
Yeah, qualifying specialist, she called it right there, Tom. Putting it on pole position by about a tenth, which is night and day with these guys. Koke Lopez, not quite the same for him though. Half a second down at the moment on his lap. He'll drive to the line, probably end up somewhere 9th or 10th around there by my estimate. Look at that 10th, isn't he clever? And there's Takuma Miyazono as well. He's fast at the moment. Up on Jose Serrano even. This could be pole again for the Japanese driver. It is. There you go. A 2:11.5 for Takuma Miyazono. Displaces Jose Serrano right at the last second. And again, 2 poles out of 2 for Takuma Miyazono.
So a mixed up grid then awaits us ahead of race 2. We're at the Tokyo Expressway in Porsche 911s. It's time to see what's going to happen in race 2 of the Nations Cup World Finals. Cars lined up on the grid then ahead of race 2 for the Nations Cup World Finals. Porsche 911s, and as you can see, a very wet circuit here. This is going to be exciting. Takuma Miyazono lines up on pole position, 9th of course in race 1, P1 so far in race 2. Jose Serrano is alongside him. Next up on the grid, Ryota Kokubun. Alongside Ryota, you can see Patrick Blajan there in 4th position, the Hungarian driver. Difficult race 1 for him. He'll want to try and turn things around. Valerio Gallo lines up P5, of course, our winner from race 1, with Angel Estrose down in 16th in race 1 and 6th position on the grid for race 2. Andrew Brooks is lining up P7, the North American driver. And in P8, it's Rick Kevelam in P4. In P8 rather, sorry, after finishing P4 in race 1. Giorgio Mangano is in at 9th position. Whilst completing the top 10 is Lucas Bonelli, the Brazilian driver. Outside of it is Koke Lopez down in P11. And P12 on the grid is Adam Tapai, the Hungarian. Hasn't really featured so far here in the Nations Cup. Cody Nikolikovsky down in 13th place. What's happened to Cody's pace? Maybe he'll resurge with it a bit further forwards in this race. Then comes Adriano Carrazza in P14. P15, Baptiste Beauvoir, a very challenging qualifying lap, but not as bad as this man here, Tomoyoki Yamanaka. 16th place on the grid. Difficult start of the race then for him at least.
Yeah, it's been very tricky for a lot of drivers now. Just a little bit of time to breathe, to concentrate. Got a long race ahead, a very tricky race ahead in these wet conditions and a very long run down to the start-finish line. So let's take it all in, relax, and it'll be a good T1.
Steve, who's your hot pick for the start of this race and who are you keeping an eye on?
I'm going to be looking at Patrick Blajan. I know that he has potential to deliver in these World Tour races. He never seems to quite be able to win races, but I know he has the potential to do it, so I'm going to be watching out for him.
Cheers, Steve. So then, here comes Takuma Miyazono, ready to lead the field towards the timing line. Wet conditions at the Tokyo Expressway for race number 2 then. Who is going to claim the checkered flag in 13 laps time? We're about to find out as we head towards that green flag then. Miyazono from Serrano, Kokubun. Then comes Blajan and Gallo. All of these drivers could feature very heavily in the first few corners. Who's going to take the flag though, and who is going to be crowned the winner of race 2 of the Nations Cup World Final? We're about to find out as we go racing, and then here in Japan as Miyazono leads the field on home soil through in towards the daylight as we come into the wet conditions then. So Miyazono in the lead then, but for how long? Because Jose Serrano is very close behind him, and of course it's a long run down towards that first corner. You can see the advantage of the slipstream. You can see Serrano pulling out of the slipstream, going side by side as we come up towards the first corner. The Spaniard is ready to try and take the lead away, and it has taken the lead away. Meanwhile, you can see Ryota Kokeman there is on the outside of Miyazono. They're 3 wide nearly down to the first corner. Who's going to blink first, and are they all going to be able to hold on into the first turn? Serrano on the inside, Kokeman on the outside, Miyazono side by side, Blajan versus Gallo. They're all snaking their way through the first corner, and somehow they all manage to make it through, facing in the right direction as well as Kokeman loses out to Blajan.
In the background, Gallo and Kokeman very, very close together at the moment as well. And yeah, I'm very surprised they'll go through their clean 3 wide at one point in the T1 in the wet in these Porsches. Incredibly impressive to do that. So here's Patrick Blajan. Strong start for him still. It's at this point really it's just making sure you get through the first couple of laps without a big mistake, because everyone's very close together. If you make a mistake, you're going to get shuffled big time towards the back of the pack. But it looks like Miyazono and Serrano starting to pull a little bit of the gap to Blajan.
Steve, where should we be looking at the overtaking opportunities here on this lap? Where are drivers going to be thinking about sending a move?
Yeah, I mean, you've got this long straight. It goes on seemingly forever, and you can actually overtake someone and get slipstream back again. So
2 seconds, Steve. Sorry, Steve. There was contact with Kokeman and Valerio Gallo. It's caused an absolute massive concertina in the middle of the pack there. Contact between Gallo and Kokeman started that all off. They're both facing the right way, but they've both gone tumbling down the order as a result.
A40 traffic jam there, wasn't it, Thomas? They all stopped trying to get by each other, and there's just no way around when the track gets blocked like that, and that's given a big gap to the guys ahead. They'll drive down into the hairpin. Brooks somehow up in 4th place now. He's somewhere out of all of this. Kokeman there on the inside. They all try and find a little bit of spot on tarmac to accelerate on. Can barely find out what's going on. There's a sea of Porsches here in the spray as Kokeman comes out in 4th, and Andrew Brooks up into 5th. So he'll be happy with that. But yeah, I'm not surprised there. Incident under investigation.
That's the understatement of the century. I mean, it's like watching a NASCAR race. They're all so close together between one another. Here comes Kokeman then with Andrew Brooks very close behind, and you can see them almost trying to push one another down this straight. Here comes Mangano pulling out of the slipstream on Andrew Brooks as they come through the tunnel and in towards the daylight then at the start of lap number 2. No penalties between Gallo and Kokeman. Stewart's deeming that as a racing incident. Meanwhile, here is Serrano versus Miyazono. Miyazono is into the race lead once more ahead of the Spaniard, but is Serrano going to be thinking about a look before too long to try and get himself now back out in front?
So they're working together, they're bump drafting, they're pushing each other down the straight, and Miyazono, they're getting very aggressive on the front line. They're all in the wall. They're all in the wall behind them. Big crash at the back of the field there. Brooks comes out in 4th, Gallo 5th, Kokeman down to 6th, and they're still tagging the wall. They're all together. There's not enough room for all of them through there. Luca Bonelli has come up from pretty much the back of the field from 10th place up into 6th. So is Karatzi, following them back up again. Wow, I'd love to see a replay of that. Steve, did you see what happened there? Because there's about 4,000 cars on one bit of circuit there.
I think it's actually 8,000 cars, Jimmy, because I just really honestly can't keep up with this. I think the stewards behind me here are going to have their work cut out to try to work out what the hell is going on at the moment.
Yeah, I had a quick word with the stewards before we got this one underway, and they said, oh, we're not looking forward to this. There's going to be so much going on. It's only lap 2, my God. God dear. Well, no such problems though for Miyazono and Serrano. They've got a bit of clear track in front of them, don't have any immediate threat from behind. Patrick Blajan there in 3rd place is 1 second back. Just to keep you aware of this, by the way, we shouldn't be expecting any pit stops at all in this race. It's a lights to flag sprint. There's no need to change the tyres. There's no need to worry about fuel consumption over these 13 laps.
Brooks skating all over the place right now. Miyazono had a really good middle sector there. He's pulled nearly a second on Serrano. So that's all we have to do. You have to get away in that middle part of a circuit so you then don't get slipstreamed on this massive straight coming now to start another lap. So Serrano actually a bit quicker out there than Miyazono was. Here's Brooks, Gallo, Bonelli and Kokeman, the second group, so to speak. Now, will they work together? Will we see a little bit more bumping down there? I'm not sure of the driver's briefing whether this is something that they've outlawed. Sometimes they do have a bit of a chat about that. Tom, have you seen much about that?
Yeah, I'm fairly sure they would have outlawed bum drafting. They do in other races, so I don't see why that would be any different here. Then you can see Gallo then into the slipstream here. He pulls out on Andrew Brooks. Meanwhile, Cocoman in the background pulling out on Lucas Benelli there as well. This is just a sea of lights coming through the tunnel as they come to start the third lap here of 13 at the Tokyo Expressway. Still Miyazono that leads, but look at this gaggle of cars. Once again, they're shuffling and changing positions. Brooks versus Benelli side by side. Cocoman in there as well. Gallo sits at the back of the train as they all come cascading in towards that first corner. Side by side we go as we come into there. Cocoman on the inside, Benelli on the outside. Brooks involved in the mix there as well. They somehow all managed to make it through, but some of them ending up in the wall towards the outside there. Meanwhile, you can see they go side by side further back as well, as Carazza is handed a 2-second penalty for colliding with another car, and now we come back into an opportunity for things to just try and hopefully settle down for a little bit.
I was going to say, I think it calmed down a little bit in the T1, but nope, they all go flying in there, of course, and just about keeping out of the wall and out of each other. On board with Valerio Gallo, our race 1 winner, currently down in 7th place, not where he'd want to be at the moment. You can see Ryota Cocoman though up there in 4th, and after that, big gap to Blajan, Serrano and Miyazono. So stay on board with Valerio Gallo. Good driver's eye view of what it's like to follow someone in the spray around here. Visibility is definitely a thing. Even in, of course, in simulation, visibility can be difficult with the spray being kicked up. Gallo doing a good job just following the lights of the car in front. And now we come up again to getting towards the end of the circuit. It's one of the big overtaking spots here. We go for a right, go for a left, and it's a big lunge down to the hairpin, the tightest part of the course, that is. That's the best place to overtake if you can get alongside the car in front.
The top two have pulled out their gaps to 1.4 seconds. Big old wiggle there for Lucas Benelli as he tried to get the power down, but no grip underneath his rear tyres at the moment. But 1.6 seconds it now sits between Miyazono and Serrano. Back to Patrick Blajan, who is in 3rd place, who's kind of all on his own. And I imagine, given the state of what's happening behind him, he'll probably be quite pleased about being on his own. Another big slide there for Lucas Benelli as he came through the right-hander. That's allowed Andrew Brooks to come cascading on through into P5 as they come down the start-finish straight.
Yeah, Brooks has been defending that from Benelli at this point, and they took different lines through there. You see Benelli took a bit of a sharper line, so whilst he gained on the corner, he couldn't get the exit. The exit angle was a bit too tight to get the power down. So now Miyazono and Serrano back together again, and this time Serrano's going to put on by, and there's not really much Miyazono can do here, apart from just go, all right, well, if you're going to do that, I'll do that again myself. Jumped into the slipstream, and then there will be no doubt fighting down towards T1. Here's 5th, 6th and 7th still completely glued together here. And this Coque Lopez getting involved. He's again come from the back of the field trying to make his best of this race. Coque Lopez, a great charger from the back, but he's got a lot of work to do to get up towards the front of the pack. Here's Gallo, Brooks and Benelli, and there is Coque Lopez. Sends it in there and just sort of...
How did he make that? I have no idea.
That was quite funny because he jumped in there and just slowly, oh no, and just fell back off down to 8th place again. But be a bit less aggressive, Coque. We'll get a penalty doing that too much.
Steve, what do you reckon of things out there so far?
Pretty intense. I'm just looking at Miyazono and Serrano at the front of the pack. They're working together to try and pull away from Blasan. Down the straight, slipstream past each other, slipstream back past each other. They're gaining a couple of tenths every time. It's just free time. So at the moment, they're going to work it out between each other at the end of the race instead. So for now, just working together.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks very much indeed for that. I just wanted to say, by the way, very quickly, how the tables turn. Giorgio Mangano, 2nd place in race 1, down at the back by 2.3 seconds in race 2. How things have gone wrong for him.
Yeah, how the turntables.
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming.
But yeah, poor Mangano. Just strong first race and then just forgot to turn up to the 2nd race. But it's Coque Lopez. Will we see any more big sends? I encourage them because they make for fantastic viewing. More of a slow burn of this race, and I say that because you're sort of just setting yourself up to be on the right bit of track for the ends of the race. While people are still lunging at each other as time goes on, as Coque Lopez just gives Benelli a little tap, say, hello, remember I'm still here, mate, and Benelli there responds by just booting it coming out of the right-hander. What matters really is where you are here on the last lap. So they'll all be trying to position their cars to benefit themselves come that time in the race.
It sounded like a cat on some lino there was Lucas Benelli trying to get the power down coming out of that final corner. Meanwhile, here are the duos of the race lead of Serrano and Miyazono, who are still working together, pulling up the slipstream of one another. Miyazono hits the front then at the start of lap 5. They've now managed to gap Patrick Blajan by nearly 3 seconds. The thing is, this is all, of course, fair in war until one of them is going to have to happen to wave the white flag to each other at this stage in the race. But of course, it's all going to come to a head towards the end. Meanwhile, you can see 5th position with Gallo, Brooks and Benelli. Here comes Lopez, nearly 4 wide into the first corner, but we go 3 wide just to try and make things a bit more sedate. However, Gallo's on the inside. You can see Brooks on the outside, Benelli ready to come through. Lopez there on the inside as well, into the next right-hander which follows. Somehow they all managed to make it through facing the right way. Gallo in front, ahead of Brooks, ahead of Lopez, ahead of Benelli for now at least.
I never thought this circuit and Porsches and rain would just promote pack racing. That's what we've got here at the moment. There's a third pack here from 5th to 9th. Van Galen and Stroza getting involved as well after disaster in the first race, and it's just if you make a mistake, if you're, say, Gallo in front of the pack, you go wide at a corner, you have 4 cars that are going to just dive on through, and then you'll be back in the pack and have to start again, try and work your way back up. We're still on board with the Stroza roof cam here as well. You can see just how close you have to get to the walls to be quick around here. Sparks being kicked up with the cars in front. They're getting a bit too close to the walls, but makes it with some very interesting high-risk racing, and that's what we like here on GT Sport.
That's exactly what we've got as well, isn't it? It's just wonderful to see all of these drivers treating each other relatively well. It was a bit chaotic in the first couple of laps, but they seem to have calmed their act down a bit, given that, as you said, Jimmy, we've got a few packs racing against one another. I just want to say, Cody Nikolakovsky, I was expecting a bit more from him in these World Finals, to be honest.
Yeah, I think maybe not quite where he wants to be in terms of speed. It's a shame to see him so low down the field. We used to see him fighting at the top of the grid, but we know he's quick usually in the last race. He saves himself for the finals, I think, but maybe he needs a few more points before them, because right now he's only on 8. Here is, again, this massive squabble for Benelli, Lopez, Brooks, Gallo in Stroza, and now more. Both are in there as well. And Adam Taipei is getting involved. Here is Jose Serrano again, just driving by Takuma Miyazono. Guess what's going to happen now? Miyazono's going to get into a slipstream and go back by him, probably into T1. And as Steve has been saying, they've just been working together. Steve, I've got a good question while you're there, mate. If you're Patrick Blajan, can you even do anything here?
I don't think so. There's basically nothing he can do other than hope that they wipe each other out. That could happen at the end of the race.
Oh, Steve, mate, I'm going to cut you across because we're 3 wide now, bashing 4 wide now, coming down on T1. Someone's going to have to give because they aren't all going to fit through there physically. And Brooks comes out ahead. Gallo is in 6th now. Someone's made a bit of a mistake there. I think that was both wide, just getting sideways coming out. Guys, calm down. You got half the race left yet.
Goodness me, you're going to have a heart attack if you carry on with that sort of tone. Christ almighty. Steve, sorry, come back to your original point then. What were we saying about Patrick Blajan there?
Yeah, I think Blajan basically doesn't have any chance unless Serrano and Miyazono do something absolutely horrific to each other, which you never know, could happen. But at the moment, they're gaining about half a second every lap just by slipstreaming past each other. It's free time, and they're making the most of it.
So Miyazono, by the way, wins this race from Serrano. Points-wise, they will be drawing going into the last race. If Serrano wins, it will be 27-23 in favour of Serrano. So these guys definitely cementing themselves as proper contenders in this series. Valerio Gallo, he's the one that needs to, I think, try and move up a little bit. Realistically, his best place now is probably going to be 4th at the front of the big pack of cars. I'll say that now, actually. Looks like Coachman's got away a little bit. So he needs every place possible to take those as many points as possible into the last round.
And Steve, just whilst we've got you here as well, I wanted to know, Serrano and Miyazono, they're battling against one another at the moment, helping each other out, increasing their advantage to Patrick Blajan, but when are they going to blink? When are they going to decide, to make their move? Do you think it's going to come down to the final lap if it stays like it is?
I think it'll be the last lap, and the thing you have to really watch out for is the final hairpin on the very last lap, because it can actually be the car behind which can actually drag past before the finish line, so watch out for that.
Yeah, cheers, Steve. Thanks very much. Here we go. Takuma Miyazono ready to take the lead away once more from Jose Serrano and back out in front as we start lap 17. Don't worry about that as you come out onto the wet tarmac. It's not too much of a transition here at this Tokyo Expressway circuit. The tyres won't be lighting up because, of course, they're going a lot faster than they would be if they were coming out of a slower corner. Meanwhile, here we go once again, back with P5. Valerio Gallo ahead of Andrew Brooks. And it's splintered away, this little group here, because you can see in the background there, it's now Benelli, Beauvoir, and also Coque Lopez are involved in a 3-way scrap for position here.
I was just thinking on what Steve was saying. I think basically you're just rehearsing the entire way to the end of the race, and finding out where you need to be in order to pass the other guy so he can't repass you on that long straight. And that's essentially what the race is going to be for Serrano and Miyazano at this point, just trying to get that right. So now Gallo, he's finally got to the head of his group. Can he pull away from Andrew Brooks? Brooks has had a decent race so far, actually, a decent series so far. He's currently in the live point standings, as you can see, would just be in the top 5, so well within a shot of the overall title if the last race goes well at the moment. But nice to see it quite close at the top, but he needs to definitely come away with 5th, ideally 4th, but I think Kokuben now is probably a bit too far away.
Well, nice to see Brooks doing well, like you say, Jimmy. I mean, we've seen him at World Tour events with his head in his hands, crying in his lap because racing just hasn't worked out for him. You know, we know he's got the speed, we know he's got the potential. We saw that with his performances in the North America regions in the top 16 Superstars this year, and of course in the regional finals for the Americas as well. And it's just good to see him fighting up the sharper end of the field and having, at the moment, and I really hope I'm not cursing this as the commentators seem to do so, having some good luck.
Brooks bias coming in strong there, Tom. I'm going to write.
He's got the best name in motorsport.
I am writing to Gran Turismo about you, Tom. That's not allowed. But yeah, to say that Andrew has been robbed in other races would be a bit of an understatement. He is so talented. He's been caught in a lot of instances that have just not been his fault. And this time, hopefully, as you say, we'll be doing well. We're on board now with Lucas Spinelli. Someone who did very well in the Supra series, took 2nd in that overall, a great result for him. Currently down in 8th position, not doing as well here, and starting to fall away from that pack a little bit. But Baptiste Beauvoir, very impressive drive from him so far. He's made up a ton of places, actually. He's come up 8 places from his starting position, so 9 now as he goes up into 6th. 5th, so 10.
Changing all the time, isn't it? Baptiste Beauvoir, lovely to see him progressing forward after an absolute mare of a first race. Meanwhile, Jose Serrano back in front. Carrazza versus Tapai, they have had an incident under investigation. Meanwhile, here is Beauvoir versus Gallo, side by side into the first corner. Beauvoir on the inside, holds on to 5th place with Gallo trying to attack, but too deep into the corner there for him, allows Gallo through, and then Brooks comes through as a result of that as well. So from 5th down to 7th at the expense of one mistake for Baptiste Beauvoir. So, well, just goes to show that running wide in one corner can cost you very dear.
Well, it is here, French range. Oh, bad to worse for Adam Tapai there. Plus 3 seconds for colliding with another car. We didn't see the incident. I'm hoping that at some point maybe Steve can grab that for us and describe what happened. But I'm going to assume just drove into the back of someone at T1 that's what I'd imagine it would be.
Easy to do so. I mean, given the closing speed and given how close these drivers are running with one another as well. Skating the wall there on the outside is Valerio Gallo.
Well, I drove this earlier and I could barely get around on my own, let alone with other cars around me. So it's a lot easier. It looks a lot easier than it is, I should say. Looking back now from Valerio Gallo, again leading that 2nd pack. Still 4 cars in this pack, 5 cars, sorry, in this pack. So any small mistake and you're going to get mugged.
It's not working out, by the way, for Angel Estrada. He was in the battle for the top 5 earlier on in this one. He's now 2.5 seconds or so down on 9th position of Lucas Spinelli. We saw him have a warning come up on screen a few laps ago. I wonder what happened there, because there was an incident under investigation and a warning being given. Meanwhile, here is Baptiste Beauvoir on the inside of Valerio Gallo as they come out of the penultimate corner. A sharp trot across the nose there for Valerio Gallo. Beauvoir now into the slipstream once again and out of the slipstream as they come in towards the tunnel, side by side between them. And who is going to get the drag down? I wonder whether Beauvoir pulled out just a fraction too early there, but it looks like he's got good momentum coming on to start lap number 8.
So this will be interesting now, because the guys behind are going to have a tow, so they'll just get back involved again. But I'm interested to see how Gallo and Beauvoir treat each other. They've been fighting each other all year in the online series. They've been 2 of the fastest guys out there, so I would love to see how that turns out. But Brooks and Lopez, because there was a bit of a tow fight going on, or a lack of a tow fight, both Gallo and Beauvoir lost out. They got freight trained by those with the tow behind. Here's Cocaine Lopez, and again, who's coming from the back of the field. Puts himself up now into 5th place. Maybe no, Brooks holds it at the moment. And it's going to be anyone's game going on to the last lap as there's contact between Gallo and Lopez. Lopez gathers it up, though, masterfully. It's so hard to keep this car straight around there as Gallo proves my point sideways coming down the hill, but a little bit of contact there. I would think maybe a racing deal.
Steve, I believe you've been looking at some of the incidents that have happened out on track. What have you managed to deduce?
Yeah, just been looking at some of the incidents between Lopez and Estrada into the final hairpin. And it's just really, they're just too close to each other, basically. And one tiny misjudgment on the brakes from Estrada. He's up the inside, pushes Coco Lopez out, but Coco Lopez looks like he's recovering quite well.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Steve. So Lopez then into P7, Stroza down into 11th position as a result of the incident that happened a couple of laps ago. Meanwhile, now running aboard here with Lucas Benelli, and he's kind of in the pound seats here. If anything kicks off between them, but I say he's in the pound seats. If he has oversteering moments like that and ends up in the wall, he'll be out of the pound seats and into some other kind of lesser seats.
Is there a tier system for seats?
There is possibly a tier system for seats.
I think this seat I'm on right now is probably at the bottom of it. It's one of those seats you find out underneath a wrestling ring. Here is Jose Serrano. He's behind Takuma Miyazono, and again, this is what this is going to be until the end of the race. I've been watching the driver cams of both of them. They both look quite relaxed. They sort of just know, well, what we can really do right now apart from sit here and just draft each other. As Steve alluded to earlier, it's going to be just a last lap lunge, and you see Serrano may be experimenting, and right now, if he had that sort of exit coming onto the last lap, he would come second. So he knows he's got to be closer than he was there, otherwise he's not going to be able to get away. I do feel for Patrick Blažej. He's got left behind. He's in no man's land at the moment. 4 seconds behind this fight, a second ahead of Ryota Kokubun. He'll be hoping to stay ahead of that. He does not want to deal with that. Interestingly, Brooks maybe, in fact, Brooks has got clear of this group now. If he can stay there, he might be able to put away from this group that he's been stuck with the entirety of the rest of the race.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a hard push, as you mentioned earlier on, Jimmy, to pull into the gap of Ryota Kokubun. Meanwhile, here we go once again. Lopez, Lucas Benelli in the background there. Gallo versus Beauvoir, the two EMEA regional stalwarts. So side by side we go into that first turn. Lopez now back ahead. Here comes Gallo trying to go up the inside of Lucas Benelli into the right-hander. He pulls along the inside and goes through into 7th place. Beauvoir is ready to try and take advantage and ready to try and pounce here as well. So the high-speed chess game continues as they come down the hill and in towards the S-bend. It's one at a time through here, unless you fancy a face full of concrete, and these drivers on this occasion do not, so they're able to keep it on the straight and narrow. But now Lopez is the driver who's going to have to be keeping a watchful eye on his mirrors.
This is going to be really interesting, this kind. We're going to get to the point now, as you see him squirm through there. Actually a bit of contact with the wall for Lopez. That's going to allow Gallo to get back by, coming up the hill. The same thing happened behind with Benelli and Beauvoir as well. He's going to slide on by up into 8th position. Every point counts at this point, because we're going to go into that final round. It's double points, and if you have any sort of advantage over your competitors, it is going to really put you in a better position for that last race. We've got our live point standings. You can't see them on screen right now, but we have them constantly up on the right-hand side. And it is so tight in the top 6 drivers there, with really Serrano and Miyazono being the big standouts. So really, we want Miyazono to win this, because then it'll be even tighter.
Yes, from a purely impartial point of view.
No, I want to see chaos.
Yeah, from an entertainment point of view, that's exactly what we want to see. Now here is Jose Serrano, and once again, as they come under the bridge, under the tunnel, he's going to have Takuma Miyazono all over him like a cheap pair of trousers, and he's going to be able to find his way back through once more, you would imagine. Let's see how long it is before he's able to find his way past. Of course, he needs to be a bit closer than that, but he's going to try and slingshot him on the final lap, but pulls towards the inside once more and goes back through into the race lead.
Steve, mate, I would love to get an idea from you. Do you know what sort of gap you need from the last corner to get to the line without being slipstreamed?
Oh, it's really a tough one. I mean, I've had lots of races here, and it is going to be close. There's no doubt about that. But you have to be about 3/4 of a second behind to be in the slipstream range, which, according to your accurate guide of blinking, is 7.5 blinks. So about 7.5 blinks behind, I'd say.
Thank you very much, Steve. I thank you for putting that in a metric that I understand.
Why am I working with these people? What happened to my life to get to this point?
Your career's gone drastically downhill, mate. Well,
it never went up the hill. What are you talking about?
Well, welcome to the rest of us. So, here's Jose Serrano. He's about a blink behind Miyazono right now. Let's not do that. But I don't know. I think really, realistically, about half a second will get you to the line, I think, without being slipstreamed. I think you won't get past.
Well, we're coming in towards crunch time now then, so let's see what's going to happen between these two boys then. Takuma Miyazono and Jose Serrano. I've got to say, they've driven exceptionally well, both of these drivers, over the course of this race, and they both deserve to win it. There's not really been a standout performer in this one, as we have seen in previous events, and here we can see Miyazono versus Jose Serrano so far, and they've just been so respectful to one another. A lot of good racing conduct out there on track, not doing things that makes them look bad at all, and the gloves are going to come off before too long.
They were just clever. They knew that Oh, well, I'll say that. Now they're getting a bit friendly now towards the end, but they were just clever about it. They knew that if they squabbled, they'd just be back in the pack that we've seen fighting for the entire race. But if they worked together, didn't really do any stupid defending on this long straight here, then they would be okay getting through and they'll put away. So that gap there, I've been watching this, that was just under 0.6 of a second. Let's see how close Serrano gets to the start-finish line. Would he pass Miyazono if this were the last lap? No, he would not. So I think it's fair to say about 5.5 tenths is about the gap you need to get to the line.
Looks about that, Ray, doesn't it? Yeah, you can see how close they run to one another, and Jose Serrano actually just doing a bit of a lift there in the tunnel, pulling out of the slipstream, but not trying to find his way past Takuma Miyazono.
He's doing the old 4D chess move, where he's trying to think 7 moves ahead now. He's thinking, well, if Miyazono's here on this lap, then I'm going to be there on the next lap, and that'll put me in the right place for that lap. So,
yeah. Oh goodness me, pulled back into the braking zone there behind Takuma Miyazono there, and I wonder if there was just a little bit of a touch between them going into that first corner. On board,
he waited.
Yeah, he did. He just waited a little bit there, Serrano, just thinking a little bit better of it. Those two keeping things on the straight and narrow, but the gloves beginning to come off a little bit, finger by finger. He's had the first finger off now, and it's ready for another one to come off before too long.
That's a phrase I never wanted to hear on commentary.
Good God.
Here is Miyazono and Serrano still. They've been our story of the race because they've just been glued together. And again, a great shot from the bumper of Serrano. Just a ton of spray being kicked up as we make our way through these Tokyo streets. I think I've been on these roads actually in real life, but I tell you what, I wasn't in a Porsche. Luckily for me, I think I would have probably lost my lunch as we come around this mid-sector again. And I think Serrano has placed himself in the right place. He wants to be ahead coming into the first corner so he can try and put away and get that gap to the line so he can win this thing.
Let's see if we get a rehearsal then as we get ready to come on to the final lap between Miyazono and Serrano. You don't think he's going to do so?
I think he's already made the move. I think he's made the move on the last lap, staying behind Miyazono, so he'll get by and hopefully, for his sake anyway, stay ahead into the first corner and then be able to lead to the line. We'll see.
So coming into that final corner, let's see what the strategy is between the top two, between Serrano and between Miyazono. You can see Serrano there just a little bit deeper into that corner, but was he just trying to square it off to get a more positive exit coming out? You can see on the right-hand side of the screen him feathering the throttle, trying to get the power down. Miyazono with a big old wiggle of the hips as he tries to put the power down, trying to get themselves back in. And here we go then, on to start the final lap.
He's just lifting big time. You can see it's just become a chess game now. Neither of them want the lead at this point. They both want to be leading into T1. Serrano's gone, right, okay, I'm going to go for it. Pulls alongside Miyazono. He's going to do it slowly. He doesn't want to give the toe back to Miyazono going down to T1 here. They're going to run side by side, and this is significant now because this is the last lap of the race. It's your last chance to be in the lead for T1. Serrano wants it. He's going to have it, I think. He's timed it absolutely perfectly now, but Miyazono would not give it up. I guarantee he's thinking exactly the same thing now. He pulls into the toe for a second, goes to the outside to try and go the long way around, but he won't have it. Serrano into the lead on the last lap.
So lovely stuff there from Jose Serrano back through. It was a case of after you, no, after you. Oh, hang on a minute, no, after you. You can see the live points rankings on the right-hand side of your screen. That's if it stays as it is. That's how it would sit. A little bit of a slide into the wall there for Serrano. Didn't lose too much time. He just kissed it on the outside. Serrano would lead by 4 points going into the grand final then here. We're coming in towards this middle sector. We know how much of a one-a-time it is through here, but we have seen some moves be made.
They don't discount a Miyazono send. We've seen it so much in these events where in the last lap, last corner, he goes, you know what, I'm going to try and go for this. And I think he's going to have to do it now. Serrano's quick for his middle sector. He's starting to fall back. That's half a second now. That is a proper gap at this point in the race. And I think his last chance to make anything work is going to be a chuck up the inside on the last corner. We're going to find out very shortly, though, as they make their way through this middle sector. Serrano right on the edge of the limit of the grip, just keeping the car in a straight line. And it's going to be do or die in these last few corners.
So come on then, let's see what's going to happen between Miyazono and Serrano. You can see Serrano is really pushing the limits of adhesion then, coming through the left hand, a bit of a slide through there. Miyazono a little bit tidier, but they come down into the braking zone. Is it going to be a send from Miyazono or Serrano as they come into there? Serrano knows that. He goes for the defensive line. Miyazono's going to try and go the long way around the outside as they come through there and try and get the switch back into there. Serrano's deep. Miyazono Miyazono's up the inside. Serrano's outbraked himself. Miyazono's through, but it's going to be a drag to the line then, surely for the race win. Here in race 2 of the Nations Cup World Finals between Miyazono and Serrano. Then this is absolutely phenomenal. Who is going to take the checkered flag between Miyazono and Serrano? They run side by side with each other down the start-finish straight then. They head under the tunnel. It's advantage Miyazono. Serrano's keeping him honest, but Miyazono is surely going to take the checkered flag. This is fantastically close between them. Only 22 thousandths of a second to the line. Miyazono wins from Serrano in race 2. Blazhan in 3rd, Kokeman 4th, and Andrew Brooks finishes inside the top 5. And there we are. You can see the relief on Takuma Miyazono's face and exactly what that race meant for him, Jimmy.
And importantly, that now ties the points going into the last round. Serrano's not bothered about it. He's on his phone to his mum saying, came second, Mum, sorry.
What's for tea?
Yeah, but that is exactly what I envisioned this race being. Just strategy to the end, and I think that there Serrano might have thrown it away, went a bit deep there, tried to get the cut back, but didn't quite make it through. And you can see, I think they're almost in tears, Miyazono. I think just that you know how much he concentrates for these races, and it just shows at the end they're absolutely knackered.
Tied on points as well, going into the grand final. It's going to be spicy, this one. What a fantastic race 2 we've had then in the Nations Cup World Finals. Up next is the grand final. We're at the Circuit de la Sarthe in the Mazda RX-Vision Gran Turismo GR3 cars. Looking forward to seeing how that will get on with 2 drivers tied on points. Anyway, race 2 in the Nations Cup. Highlights for you now. You can see Takuma Miyazono led the way from the start here.
Yeah, it was a mad, frantic dash, really, for the first few laps. Everybody tried to outdo each other down to the first braking zone. Serrano will come out ahead of Miyazono, but in the back of the field, Gallo, Kokeman and Inestrosa all coming together, forming a little bit of a traffic jam. They all got out in one piece, and then Coca Lopez fancied another go, lunged up the inside, missed everyone, then fell back down to 8th position.
It was coming to the closing stages, what we were keeping an eye out for, though, between Serrano and Miyazono, who would blink first between the two of them as they came on to start the final lap. Serrano would lead the way, and then it would come down to the final corner. Serrano going in a bit too hot. Miyazono sliding his way through up the inside, and then it was a drag to the line underneath the tunnel with Takuma Miyazono taking victory by just 22 hundredths of a second. You can see Serrano there, happy but frustrated with that second place finish there, and Takuma Miyazono, well, overcome with emotion.
Yeah, same again, really. He's close. He knows he's close to what could be a first ever Nations Cup Championship win. There are the full race results. Miyazono, Serrano, Blazhan, Kokeman, Brooks as well, also in contention. Currently, we have about 6 drivers within a shot at the moment of taking this Nations Cup Championship.
Yeah, you can see some of the drivers who were a bit unlucky during that race. Here are the points rankings then going into the final. So, Miyazono and Serrano tied on points, as well as Brooks and Lopez for 3rd position there as well, and also Valerio Gallo on exactly the same point standings. Kokeman in the mix there also. Like you say, Jimmy, realistically, it's probably going to be the top 6 that are fighting for this grand final overall Nations Cup title.
Yeah, it's double points, of course. So if someone has a bad race and someone that, say, Kokeman has a really good race, takes the full 24 points, he could just shoot up the standings. We've seen that before in the regionals of EMEA and, of course, Coca Lopez. Could happen here too.
Certainly could. Yeah, let's go over to Julia then, shall we? She is with our race 2 winner and the points leader, Takuma Miyazono.
I walked very slowly over to here, but my heart is racing after that. That was an incredible battle. Like, look how high my voice has gone. That's how dramatic it was. So we thought it was best, really, to speak to the man of the moment, that is Takuma Miyazono. I mean, if we're, you know, super, our heart is racing, how must he be doing? So, Takuma, how are you doing?
レース1でちょっと流れがすごい悪くなってしまったので、それをどうにか断ち切ろうと思ってレースに挑んでたんですけど、本当最後はどっちが勝ったのかってもう全然わからなくて、本当にギリギリの差で勝てたんですけど、もう今はすごくほっとしてます。
Oh my goodness, you looked, I mean, I don't think people realise what intense pressure it is and focus when you're racing. So can you even really fully understand everything that's going on in the race, or are you just like, just drive fast, get to the end?
早く走るってことも心がけてるんですけど、最後どういう形で1位でゴールできるのかっていうのを頭に入れて、はい、走ってました。
Yeah. I mean, definitely. We know you love your strategy, of course. So obviously the final bit, against Jose Serrano was very, very intense to watch. And you are now kind of, as it stands, equal in points going into the grand final. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but you are close to getting the triple, the Gran Turismo triple. What's going to be your strategy? How are you going to keep your calm and keep your cool and take home all 3 championships? How are you going to do it, Takuma?
あまり気負っても仕方ないので、全部勝つっていうのもすごいことかなっていうふうには思うんですけど、そこはあまり意識しないようにして、次のレースだけに、集中して、で、ちょっと今、緊張しちゃってるというか、あまり精神的に良くないと思うので、一旦リラックスして、でまた集中し直そうかなというふうに思ってます。
Oh, you're going to do great. Well, I'm sorry to have, put that in your head. Just ignore everything I've said, erase it from your mind, and go fresh into the grand final and do your very, very best, as I know you will. So well done at Takuma. Good luck into that final race, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you very much, Julia. Now, you've just heard from our Race 2 winner, and we've also just had the chance to catch up with a legendary world champion.
Hey guys, it's a real shame I can't join the GT family at the World Finals this year. In 2018 and 2019, it was great to be with some of the best drivers of Gran Turismo and see them in action. It was also fun to have a go at racing against some of the very talented drivers. I'm excited to watch the first ever online GT Championship this weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing who wins. So I'm wishing everyone all the best, and keep pushing.
Always a pleasure to catch up with Lewis. Now, back down to Julia.
As that race was incredibly close and unbelievably gripping right up until the very, very final moment, we thought we'd talk to the other car in the race, the other driver in that race, which is Jose Serrano. Jose, how are you doing?
Hello, Julia. Pues la verdad, muy contento. Increíble carrera.
I have to say, that was incredibly intense, that race. How did you work out when was a good time to, try the overtakes? Because there were so many opportunities, and if you get it wrong, then it doesn't always work out so well.
Bueno, la verdad es que con el trabajo de Miyazono y mío lo hemos hecho increíblemente bien, dándonos rebufo en cada vuelta. Y me he esperado a la última vuelta para ir yo delante porque aire sucio se notaba mucho y nada, casi me sale bien. Aún así contento.
I mean, it was too close to call. I don't think anyone had misplaced strategy because it was just so close. How much was your heart racing just in those final moments?
Nada, la pulsación es muy alta en la última vuelta. Increíble.
Yeah, I think I got that. I don't think I needed the translation, but definitely. So, Jose, you and Takuma, you are, as it stands, you're kind of on even ranking in terms of points. So, obviously, going into the grand final, every single point is going to count. How are you going to focus and make sure you get every point that you can in this next race?
Ir a tope y a ganar, como siempre.
Oh, well, good luck, Jose, and thanks so much for talking to us. Now, before we get the grand final underway, we have one more of our little kind of behind-the-scenes little tidbits about everything that's going on at Gran Turismo with, obviously, the man behind the franchise himself, Yamauchi-san. And let's take a look at what he's got to say.
僕らポリフォニーデジタルというのは常に最高のものを追い求めています。何一つ妥協はしたくないんですよね。一番いいものを皆さんに届けたいと思っています。これはもう僕だけの思いではなくて、僕らの会社、200名の、スタッフ全員の思いでもあります。神は細部に宿るって言いますけど、本当にそうで、いかに細かいところまで気を配って それをパーフェクトに仕上げていくのか磨き上げていくのかっていう、そこに、大変な注意を払うというのが、僕らの制作スタイルということになります。
Well, I hope Yamauchi-san's little kind of tidbit videos kind of fully whetted your appetite for everything Gran Turismo, and you are as excited as we are for the future of GT. Because we are pretty excited. That's an understatement. I suppose it's pretty much time to get the final race of 2020 underway. This is the grand final of the Nations Cup. I don't think I can really express it into words, so just look at my face and know that. Let's chuck it over to Tom and Jimmy.
Yeah, cheers, Julia. Thank you very much indeed. So then the grand final is just a few moments away for the Nations Cup. Looking forward to seeing how these drivers will be getting on over the course of this one. Let's just remind you, though, what's happened so far here today in races 1 and 2. Well, in the Nations Cup race 1, we were at the Fuji International Speedway, of course, in the GR Yaris. Is a brand new car to Gran Turismo Sport, and it was Takuma Miyazono and Giorgio Mangano who were doing battling early doors.
Yeah, this race very much setting the tone for the rest of the day. It's been a mad one here, of course, and at Fuji it was Gallo and Mangano who fought for the majority of the race, with Gallo with this awesome move all the way around the outside of Mangano as he won. Great respect between the two Italian drivers, as we always tend to see there. In the Strohs was in there as well, but unfortunately issues with strategy. Then it was this massive moment at the end of the race for Yamanaka. Wide with Mangano, then just slipped down the freight train by Serrano, Kevlam and Brooks in the end there. And it was Gallo who would take the win from Mangano, Serrano third, Kevlam fourth and Brooks in 5th position.
Very exciting start to the day's worth of racing. A great start for Valerio Gallo. He was very pleased with that, and quite rightly so for the Italian driver. In terms of race 2, however, which we saw, of course, very recently, it was Takuma Miyazono who qualified on pole position at the Tokyo Expressway. Himself and Jose Serrano did a great job of working together to pull out an advantage over the rest of the field. It would become a two-way scrap for the lead as it all kicked off in the midfield. You can see Kokeman, Inestrosa, Gallo and Andrew Brooks all coming to blows, and then it came down to the final lap between Miyazono and Serrano as they duelled for the race lead and, of course, the win in the lead of the points standings there as well, I should say. You can see into the final corner, Serrano overcooked it massively. Miyazono got himself back up the inside, and then it was a drag to the line, which Miyazono would eventually win, leaving him tied on points with Jose Serrano going into the grand final race here for the Nations Cup World Finals. Elation on the face of Takuma Miyazono, emotion there as well. Very keen to see what is going to happen ahead of this. Just to remind you of the point standings then, it's Miyazono versus Serrano.
A little bit close, isn't it? Two on the same amount of points at the top, 3 on 18 points there. Brooks, Lopez and Gallo and Kokeman just outside that on 17 in 6th. Realistically, really top 6, I think, within a chance of winning this, but we know these races tend to go double points. It can go any way.
Takuma Miyazono, you can see some stats on your screen there now. So in all the championship races, he's done 297. He's taken a century of wins, 100, and that's a 33.6% win percentage, which is very impressive indeed. If you compare that to Jose Serrano, who we look at on your screen here now, 481 races he's done, 81 wins though. It's only a 16.8% win percentage.
But a bit newer on the scene, I think, is Serrano. Of course, very young 18-year-old, first series here and driving incredibly well. Looking forward to these two face off in the final.
Well, without further ado, let's get the grand final in swing then, shall we, and show you the circuit that we're going to be racing at here for the final time in the 2020 season. And the Circuit de la Sarthe, Le Mans. Jimmy, you know this place pretty well.
Oh, I've done thousands of laps around it, Tom. You think it'd be tired of it by now, but definitely not. It might look simple from a track map, just over 13.5 kilometres in length, but it really, really isn't. That massive Mulsanne straight broken up by 2 chicanes. Great places to overtake through there as well, and also a good place to save fuel if you're slipstreaming.
You see the Mazda RX-Vision GT3 Concept is the car that will be available for the drivers. One make. They've got a 10-lap qualifying session, single lap of course. Racing hard, medium and soft tyres available for them over the course of 10 laps. And a standing start here as well, so that's going to make things a bit spicy.
Always love a standing start as another bit of strategy into the game. Speaking of strategy, we really expect round here to see a 2-stop, just because of how long it takes to make a pit stop around. About 19 seconds our guys will spend in the pit lane with a normal tyre stop, so try and minimise that as much as possible.
Yeah, you can see the tyre strategy on your screen there at the moment. Let's move over and have a look at the fuel strategy strategy then, shall we? We reckon the drivers will have to put a little bit of fuel in towards the end, but it could possibly be the case that because they've got that long straight and are able to slipstream, they might be able to save a bit of fuel and could run from lights to flag.
And they already know that. They'll already be making their plans as we speak. Really looking forward to seeing how these strategies unfold.
Let's head over to Steve then, shall we, before the start of the race?
Cheers, guys. Yes, alongside our Nations Cup winner, we'll also be crowning a Michelin Driver of the Day. So early candidates, Miyazono and Serrano. They're ahead of the field, both on 25 points apiece. And if anyone else can put in a good performance in this final race, they might be adding their name to that shortlist. But ahead of the grand final, let's go back to Tom and Jimmy.
Absolutely no surprise, I think, to see Miyazono and Serrano at the top of the Michelin Driver of the Day award pile.
Yeah, I reckon they've earned it. I think there are a couple more names in there I might chuck in. But if we did that, we'd end up in a massive pool of names. It'd be very difficult to make a decision, I think. So
yeah, anyway, enough talking. Let's get down to it, shall we? Drivers are out on track. Let's pick up with qualifying for the grand final. See what they're going to be able to do in this qualifying session. This is easily the longest lap that we have had here tonight for the Nations Cup as well, and that of course means that we should expect gaps to be a little bit bigger, and also there's more opportunities for mistakes.
Also means we get to see every qualifying lap being set, because it takes a while to get round there on your out lap. Now the pressure is on this man, Takuma Miyazono, because as Julia pointed out, we missed this, so big props to Julia, that this will be the triple if he manages to pull this off. The GR Super Cup, manufacturers of course with Subaru, and then potentially winning overall here in Nations Cup. He will be the first driver ever to do that. So if he can manage it, it's going to be something special. No doubt that's in his head.
In terms of a quick lap then here at the Le Mans circuit, what is the key, Jim? I mean, you've won virtually around this 24 hours of Le Mans. So what is the key to going fast right now?
Yeah, I've taken part in far too many races around here. Speed, a lot of it is just in the stops, in the brakes, because a lot of the time you spend on the circuit, you're full throttle, but it's coming onto the straight and coming off it. That's where all the time is. So, for example, through these Porsche curves, as they used to be called, I think they still be called that, it's all about just being smooth and just not dragging the car through there. Let the car roll out if it needs to. Don't fight the tyres too much, especially in this race, because we do have quite a bit of tyre wear, of course, on show as well. And then when you get to the forward chicane, just send it. Smash it through the chicanes. Don't worry too much about cutting a little bit of the curb either side. You can get away with a bit of it, and the smoother you can get it, the more speed you carry onto the straight, the more speed you carry to the line.
If in doubt, send it. That's the advice then from Jimmy Broadbent. So here is Takuma Miyazono ready to start his first and of course the only flying lap that these drivers will have in the session. Of course, unlike what we've had in the previous qualifying sessions, it's all the drivers out on track essentially at the same time, given the fact that the qualifying session is only 10 minutes long. The drivers only have one flying lap. The track is so large that generally you wouldn't run into traffic from another vehicle, and they're pretty evenly spaced out. So Takuma Miyazono just coming down through into, this is on the Bugatti circuit. He's getting ready to head into the area of the Sarthe circuit onto the Mulsanne straight.
Forest S's, Tom.
The Forest S's, there you go, that's the word.
That's Touch Rouge. I'm a massive Le Mans nerd, so I know all the corner names. Apart from the chicanes, which changed the sponsorship. So, they used to be called the PlayStation chicanes, so we'll just call it that.
Perfect, that reminds me.
That works out.
Should we just make up a name, Gran Turismo Corner or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure legally.
that would work.
Here's somebody else. The pressure's there for too. It's Valerio Gallo, and last race didn't quite go the way he would have wanted it to. Bear in mind that he is fighting, of course, at the top, potentially to be one of the guys to go through and take the Nations Cup crown today. But he needs a good lap round here. Le Mans is a place where you can slipstream, so maybe being on pole isn't the best place to be, but we know it's a fast starter too, which takes us on to another thing we've spoken about already, standing start for this.
Yeah, exactly, that's the thing. There's a lot of power going through the rear wheels of these Mazda RX-Vision Gran Turismo GT3 Concept cars, and, well, it's not the easiest thing to get off of the line, so we should imagine drivers will be spinning them up, and they've probably done a fair amount of practice. Here is Giorgio Mangano then, and, well, things have not gone the Italians' way at all so far in terms of how it sits in the standings there for him. I say that haven't gone his way, because it just really hasn't. It's just been a bit of a difficult day at the office there for him. Here's Rick Cavalum coming over the line. Giorgio Mangano sets a 352.7. Cavalum is a 352.9. Blajan a 353.7. And Tapia 353.8, just under a tenth of a second shy here.
But it started all right for Mangano. Second place in the first race, and then just kind of forgot to turn up for a second.
Yeah, it went Pete Tong, didn't it?
Damn it. Here's Pinelli, someone else who's been very quick but just on the outside of where it needs to be. Sort of knocking on the door, but not quite able to walk through it in this case. Let's see what time he sets around the circuit. Decent enough, third place right now. Now, we'll expect the gaps being a little bit bigger here. And speaking of big gaps, Valerio Gallo, 4 tenths there over Giorgio Mangano. Great lap there from the Italian, exactly what he needs to start off his day. And Yamanaka as well coming in with a decent time, good enough for second place. Here's Andrew Brooks, someone else who is in contention for the series win here, goes up into 5th.
The man who we need to keep a real eye on is actually Jose Serrano, the qualifying specialist. He was up fastest of the lot in the 4th sector. Here then is Baptiste Beauvoir. He has set a 6th fastest time in this session. Cody Nikola Lukovsky 3 tenths of a second shy, coming through the final sector and over the timing line. Where is the Australian going to sit then as he comes to complete his lap? It's 4th fastest. That's not bad at all there for him. Ryota Kokubun ready to come into the Ford chicane then, and this of course is where he very nearly lost the Tokyo finals last year in October. Over the line he comes though in qualifying for these Mazda machines, and where is he going to place? It's 2nd quickest at the end of that session. Not a bad lap time there at all for him. What about Angel Enestrosa? The Chilean driver comes over the line, 8th quickest. Not anything to write home about, but not bad there at all. Serrano's lost time though in the final few sectors. He's clearly made a mistake and only goes 6th fastest.
Happens sometimes, you can make mistakes around here, even in the last part of the lap, and Serrano will be upset with that because he needs to be up front. Here's Carazza across the lines, while Lopez chucking it through the Ford chicane, but not quite fast enough, it seems. A second down and all over the place, really trying a bit too hard. Now Miyazono, this is super important for his championship. Can he beat Serrano, who is currently 7th, comes across through the last chicane to the timing line? Can he beat Valerio Gallo? He won't beat that time, but importantly, just ahead of Serrano on circuit. So Valerio Gallo needed that pole position, and he took it with both hands.
Well, I tell you what, I was really expecting the time to be spread out, but look at how close they are up and down the field. So close between all of these drivers, especially in the mid-section of the lap there. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers nearly, all within a 10th of a second of one another. What a qualifying session for the grand final. So then, it comes down to this. This is the grand final for the Nations Cup as part of the world final for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships. Hold on to your hats because we are about to crown our 2020 world champion. It all comes down to this then. The Circuit de la Sarthe plays host to the world final, the grand final for the Nations Cup 2020. At the end of this race, we'll crown our champion. Valerio Gallo starts on pole position. Alongside him on that front row is Ryota Kokubun, the Japanese driver. Then the next row of the grid headed by Tomoyuki Yamanaka. Alongside the Japanese driver, it's Adriano Carazza, who's had good form here in the past as well. Let's not forget back to Tokyo, our world final last year. Giorgio Mangano heads row 3, the Italian driver, and he has got Cody Nikola Lukovsky for company alongside him. Next up on the grid is Takuma Miyazono, the driver, of course, who is joint leader of the standings going into this race. He's got his title rival, Jose Serrano, for company in 9th position. Then it's Rick Kevelum in P9. The Dutchman lines up just inside the top 10 with Andrew Brooks, the Canadian, alongside him. Again, a driver who is still very much within title contention here today. Angel Enestrosa, the Chilean driver, lines up P11 on the grid. Then comes Coque Lopez, the Spaniard. Next up, it's Lucas Bonelli in P14. Alongside him is Patrick Blajan. Completing the grid is his compatriot Adam Tapai. Difficult qualifying for the Hungarian, but let's see then what is going to happen as we get ready to head down towards that first series of corners through into the Dunlop chicane. So Valerio Gallo on the right, Ryota Kokubun on the left-hand side. 10 laps of the Circuit de la Sarthe until we crown our world champion then. Wait for the 5 red lights to come on at the top of your screen. When they do, the tension is in the air, and we, for the final time in 2020, are underway. Good start from Valerio Gallo, not bad from Ryota Kokubun then as they come cascading away. Look at Mangano trying to go towards the outside, but Gallo holds on to the lead. Good getaway there from him. Keep an eye out in the background. Looks like Lukowski is trying to make a move there on Giorgio Mangano as they come through into the Dunlop chicane. Is anybody going to go for a dive down the inside? Karatsa's having a sneaky look. Isn't able to find his way past in the mid-pack. It's all action aplenty as they come cascading through then under the Dunlop bridge and down in towards the S-bends. But Gallo leads the way from Kokubun, from Karatsa, from Mangano, from Lukowski.
Yamanaka had an awful start there, all the way down to 10th place off the line on that medium tyre as well. Put himself behind 2 hard runners. That'll be a disastrous start for him, so he needs to get back on it and back up as quick as he can. Right now, Karatsa behind Kokubun on that medium compounder tyre as well. Both these guys remember back to Tokyo. They're that last qualified together, so they very much know each other around here. They know the circuit well. They probably know the car too as well. Gallo up front, a 10th of a second already. Karatsa pulls alongside Kokubun, takes second place and goes after the Italian driver.
So back into the slipstream then once again goes Ryota Kokubun. In the background there you can see some side-by-side action going on as well. There is Takuma Miyazono versus Cody Nikolikovsky coming down the Mulsanne straight into the first of 2 chicanes here as well. In the background, lots of overtaking action, a little bit wide there by the looks of things for Andrew Brooks. That point might allow an opportunity for Jose Serrano to find his way through, and it does. He's now back into 8th position into the Spaniard, but there's a bit of a gap in front of him to Rick Kevelan, 1.5 seconds as it stands. He's going to have a lot of work to do, and of course this is very, very crucial for the title here as well.
Just looking on board now from Kevelan, going down the Mulsanne straight for the first time, coming up to the second chicane. Good place to overtake it if you're close enough. Kevelan not really close enough, so we'll try and probably save it for the Mulsanne corner if he wants to do that. Bear in mind round here, fuel will be a big factor because these cars will not go a full racing tank of fuel. We think they'll do about 8 laps if things go well. But so slipstreaming like this and just saving a little bit of fuel, just lifting and coasting when you can, that's all going to add up for the pit stop, which means less time in the pits, more time out on track and more time fighting. Look at that, what a scene that is in the background. A snake of Mazdas coming down right at the back of the pack. A massive fight for all the hard runners. Lopez in front of Serrano, of course. There's Blajan in there too from his poor qualifying position. The Strokes are going to try around the outside. He's probably going to get hung out to dry there. He does, but Lopez comes out in ninth. Serrano, of course, needs to get up the field as quick as he can.
And he's been lost out to Koke Lopez here as well. He was ahead of Lopez earlier on in the lap, and now Lopez is ahead of him. So not a dream start there for Jose Serrano. Takuma Miyazono up into P6 after his qualifying there then as well. Steve, as we come to the end of this first lap, what did you make of the start?
Yeah, it's a really good start there from Serrano on the hard tyre, got alongside Miyazono. But then, of course, they're on different tyres. So at the moment, Serrano's just dropping down the field. He's been shuffled down the deck a little bit, losing a bit of time because of being a bit untidy, but hopefully, for his sake, it doesn't cost him too much in the end.
So bear in mind, Serrano, one of the big competitors coming into the final here, as well as Gallo as well. Kokubun also with an outside shot if he has a good race. Right now, having the best race he could possibly have, being the leader of the medium compound side. Look who else has finally woken up. It's Cody Nikolikovsky. Been waiting for you, Cody. Maybe a bit late in the day to start your charge now, but better late than never. Coming through the Porsche curves, he is just behind Giorgio Mangano as well. Great bit of circuit. This is not a place you really want to be behind someone through here. Even in these Group 3 cars, they kick out quite a bit of downforce, and what you feel when you go through there is a dirty air, the push. You turn the car in, but it doesn't do it. It just slides wide instead. On board with Miyazono. What's going through his mind right now? He knows that if he takes one of his race, he will take the Triple Crown.
He needs to get himself ahead, really, of the medium compound runners in front of him. That's his immediate target, because, of course, he's going to be on a different strategy here compared to the likes of Gallo and Karatsa out in front in this one. They are already a good way up the road, about a second or so clear of Ryota Kokubun, who's in 3rd position, and the train, which does indeed follow him. Over the timeline we go, some hard runners coming in. Koke Lopez and Helena Strozza into the pit lane at the end of lap 2 to change over to the medium compound of tyre. We're about to flick it right and go in towards that Dunlop chicane once more, and you can see there on the closing speed what Takuma Miyazono has got. Very close indeed to the back of Cody Nikola Lukovsky now, and surely he's going to be thinking about trying to find his way past onto the Mulsanne.
He needs to, basically. He needs to get up there and do the best he can. If the race were to end right now, it would be a tie in points between Valerio Gallo and Takuma Miyazono. Now, I know it's a bit premature because we've still got a lot of the race yet to go, but that if Gallo did that, he would win because he finished first in the grand final. We finished further ahead now. That's how we decide the tie-break situation. So, Kokubun, Mangano, Lukovsky, Miyazono all line astern, coming down the straight towards the first chicane. Miyazono at the back of this little train, so the big draft. Meanwhile, Blajan and Serrano going at it, and Serrano losing another place, but Blajan is on the medium compound of the tyre. You sort of expect him to get on with it. I was interested to see him not pit in. We've had a couple of the hard runners come in and put in straight away onto the mediums.
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy call that there. Steve, what do you make of that? Serrano didn't pit in, his countryman Lopez and also Ena Strozza did at the end of lap 2. They've done that mandatory stint on the hard compound of tyre. Why do you think Serrano may have stayed out?
Well, I think the main reason is because it's such a long track that you really don't want to have to do too many pit stops, and you don't want to have to stretch your stints out too long, because if you go one lap too long, it's a long lap to get back to the pits on a bad set of tyres. So I think that's the main reason.
It's Kokubun and Mangano coming through the second chicane.
Change of positions there. Mangano now ahead of Kokubun into third place there as well. So
that's why we hire you, Tom, so you spot things like that.
Mangano now into P3 then, so his next target of course is going to be Adriano Corazza. Of course those two, the top two, on a very different strategy. They're on the soft compound of tyre, but I thought they'd have pulled out more of a gap than this. They're only 1.2 seconds up the road, which, you know, you can see them very much clearly in the distance there. I thought it would just be a bit more significant than that, but in turn I was going to say Corazza is still 1.7 ahead of Gallo. Gallo is 1.7 ahead of Corazza rather.
I was going to say, I reckon what we'll probably see is now they'll start to put away a little bit because they've got out of the draft. I think that's what's keeping them together on that first lap. This is what you're seeing right now, third to sixth, separated by, well, nothing really, essentially. How many blinks is that, do you reckon, Tom? I'm going to give that maybe one blink. But I don't want to know how many blinks it is, Jimmy, because I'm normal and I count things by tenths of a second. Meanwhile, we're side by side in the foreground of your shot, as you can see, between Kokubun and Mangano once again. Lukovsky and Miyazono ready to try and join the party as we come in towards Indianapolis then, through into the right hand. And you can see a little bit of a wider line coming into there for Kokubun. Mangano as well. Look at these four drivers running nose to tail. It's almost... how many wheels is that? 16 wheels? 16-wheel Mazda at the moment coming through those corners. Let's keep maths out of this because I...
oh, yeah, because you have to do them by blinks instead.
Yeah, I can barely count to 3, let alone 16. So there's Gallo, he's leading, 1.3 seconds. Corazza there behind as well. I'm interested to see how long these soft tyres are going to last for. There was a tyre rework in terms of wear to try and make it a little bit less cut and dry. Here is Takuma Miyazono. Again, pressure on, going through the Porsche curves. There's Cody Nikola Lukovsky in front. Behind us is Rick Kevlin, the Dutch driver. To be honest, Rick's not really featured much in these races. I say that, I mean, he's obviously been around, but never really been at the sharp end. And saying that, though, he has been steadily improving, has Rick Kevlin. He used to be a bit of a back marker, but now he's firmly in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, of course, you don't get to these World Finals without being quick in your own merit. He's a very quick driver in his own right, but perhaps maybe it could be a circuit car combination thing, or maybe just the performance of other drivers out on track is just a little bit higher than Rick has been able to reach. But either way, good to see him fighting up the sharper end of the field here tonight ahead of this grand final then. So over the line come these four drivers, shaping from third position all the way down the order, as you can see. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, a lot of the hard runners coming in then. So we've got Benelli, we've got Brooks, Serrano and Pai all in the pit lane at the end of the second lap coming through. And you can see Corazza's got a warning there for, or an incident under investigation, rather, I should say, from the stewards for ignoring the track limit. But here's Serrano then, joint championship leader, to remind you, going into this race. He's in the pits for the first time.
The thing is, really... in a lot of races, we tend to talk about clear air. I wanted to be in clear air here, but I think, oh, Kokubun, watch out, mate. I'll finish that fourth in a second, but Kokubun nearly looped it on the way into Tertre Rouge. He's trying so hard to keep Mangano behind. Not quite sure why, because look, here he comes. Draft, thank you very much, mate. Of course, the poor run onto the straight is going to help too. Also behind us is Cody. There he comes. Well, he's got a better draft than both of them. He's going to take 2 for 1. Thank you very much. And here comes Miyazono as well. They're going to make it 3 wide coming down to the first chicane here. Miyazono in the best place on circuit comes across to cover Mangano, and Lopez, and he's going to get both of them. A great move by Miyazono. One of opportunity there, and that needed to happen. He's now front of the field and on points would be walking away with a Nations Cup crown.
Fantastic driving there from Takuma Miyazono. Absolutely positioned that car to perfection there and did a fantastic job of just anticipating what the other drivers were going to be doing. He now sits in 3rd position in this race, and as you can see with the live points rankings as it would sit on your screen, it's going to be very, very close indeed. Now Mangano's back through on Miyazono. That changes hands once again as we come in towards the second chicane. But Miyazono, that'll be confidence boosting there for him. I just wanted to say, actually, we spoke to him, of course, after race 2, Jimmy, and what I loved was he was just so humble in the way that he was approaching things. And he was saying, you know, I'm just taking this race by race, corner by corner, lap by lap, and just not doing too much, not putting too much pressure on myself.
Worked for him so far, of course. If that actually works for him, then 100% go for it. That's what it's all about. Do the things that make you feel comfortable on the seat, and so this is not very comfortable right now as Miyazono thinks about having a fight down to Mulsanne corner. One of the biggest stops on the circuit, that one. You're coming down for about 280 kilometers an hour to around maybe to less than 100 on the apex. It really is a massive slowdown. Here comes Miyazono. Now this is actually a good place to get by, coming down to Indianapolis, because it's not as much of a chance to get back by after you come through that complex. So there's Miyazono again on the inside. Indianapolis is a great sequence of the corners. Just coming up to it now. It's just a little chuck to the right. Cody, oh, he's going to do it. This is the Cody we know.
Has he got nitrous on there or something? The amount of speed he has, the overspeed.
Big draft on the way in there. Takes the corner away from Miyazono, and now he's the one that's going to be leading coming in to Arnage. Now they're about 3 seconds behind Carrazza and Gallo now. They're not going to gain that back if they're squabbling like this, but maybe we'll see a bit of a repeat of what we saw in the last race. Maybe working together.
I wonder whether strategy is going to come into play and decide this one, because Miyazono, what he needs to do is he needs to get clear of these cars. He needs to stop squabbling if he's got any hope of trying to get himself in towards a race-leading position to the end of this race. But it's going to be so difficult when you're fighting amongst each other, because, as you can see with the live graphic on the side, left-hand side of the screen, the tower graphic, they're just hemorrhaging time. It's now 3.5 seconds on lap 3 here, the gap between the top 2 and these drivers who are battling the 3rd.
Yeah, Steve, I wanted to ask you a quick question, mate, if we have you. It's about Gallo and Carrazza, mainly Gallo. I mean, he's out front right now, but he's the one punching his own hole. Is Jill going to play a big deal here? I reckon it is, but Steve's so busy with his calculations that we can't quite figure out. We'll get back to him shortly when we can, but I really do think that it's going to be a big part of this. It's just getting that fuel right. Miyazono into the pits, first person to do so. Also, wow, okay, they're all coming in now, so they're all jumping into the pit lane. Miyazono on the mediums, Gallo coming in from soft to medium. So now we'll see Takuma be quick, hopefully, in that soft tyre.
Steve, down to you. What do you reckon of things so far?
Yeah, very interesting, very intriguing strategy battle. I think it's going to be a 2-stop for everyone. The pit lane lost time is too big to do any more than 2 stops. So really, I think fuel, as Jimmy said, fuel is going to be really, really important. We've seen in previous races, if you can sit behind someone and save a little bit more fuel, that could be crucial.
These drivers need to come out of the pit lane as well. They're wanting to come out with a bit of clear air to just hopefully run their own race for a little while. So now it is Lukowski, Mangano and Kokeman who are the top 3 drivers in this race. They haven't made their pit stop. You can see that on the left-hand side of the screen, that tower graphic. If there's a number next to the tyre, that indicates the number of pit stops that they have made. If it just has a hyphen on there, that indicates that they have not yet pitted so far. And of course, just telling that to you if perhaps you're new to Gran Turismo, if you're new to watching our World Finals. First of all, welcome along. It's great to have you here and great to have you joining us for this. You're joining us for a truly epic crescendo to the World Final for the Nations Cup as well, and a truly epic battle between Mangano and Lukowski. The Italian is now ahead.
It's a hard thing to say. Do we view this as a battle or more just a working together? There's a fine line there at the moment. You have to bear in mind that these guys are going to be trying to save a bit of fuel, and if Cody was to let Mangano just stay behind him for the entire time, this is essentially giving away time in the pit lane. Now here's Miyazono. He's come out on the soft compounder tyres. Got Carrazza behind him as well on the medium. Bear in mind that Carrazza was actually ahead when they all came into the pit stop. So Miyazono's already made the jump there, showing the speed of that soft tyre, but he won't be able to get away down the straight here.
But he's 4.1 seconds, he's got a gap. If he can find a way to just extend an advantage in the twisty bits when he's got a bit more grip underneath him, that'll be perfect for Takuma Miyazono, and it hopefully will allow the strategy for his sake to fall into place. Meanwhile, you can see there Kokubun with Yamanaka right up his rear wing, but Yamanaka in turn with Kevelan trying to find his way through. Then down the second half of the Mulsanne straight and heading in towards Mulsanne corner. The lead changes once again, meanwhile, with Mangano now getting the better of Cody Nikolakowski coming in towards that Mulsanne corner. Nobody changing places a bit further back, but these guys running very, very close to one another.
I've just been trying to think whilst I've been sitting here, as a commentator, it's my job to think sometimes. What would I do in this situation? How would I handle this race? And Steve said about doing a two-stop, because the pit loss 19 seconds, something like that, is quite a long time to be in the pit lane, so you can't really make that up on circuit, as Cody again just shuffles by Mangano for the 40th time so far in this race. But would you want to be out front or would you want to be in a pack? Because being out front, you have you can dictate your own pace, do what you like, but in a pack you've got the draft, but it's more risky. So
yeah, it's a pros versus con thing, isn't it? It's working out
the
benefits and the rewards. Steve, what do you reckon? Where would you be in this situation? We know that Jimmy can't figure it out, so what do you reckon?
I think, I mean, if you happen to be with someone, you've got to hope that they see the same picture as you and are willing to work with you. I think that's the main thing. But I think most drivers will be happy at the front with clear air, no one to interrupt them, and they can just get into their rhythm and just do what they were doing in practice over and over again.
So speaking of that, sort of Cody and Mangano now have just pulled away a bit, haven't they? They've got a little bit of a gap to the guys behind. This is what they want to do. They want to be swapping places, giving each other the toe down the straight, but not really slowing each other down in the corners. And what I mean by that, of course, when you have the slipstream, you get the overspeed, you drive by the guy in front of you, you then both go through the corner as normal, and you essentially give the position back going down the next straight. That will only last until probably that 9, and then it will become every man for itself. But until then, if you can work together, you can basically improve both your odds in the race, but it requires the other driver to be thinking the same thing.
So everybody else is on the medium compound of tyre, but for Takuma Miyazono. I say that now, and some drivers are coming in to change over the compound, but at that stage, Takuma Miyazono is on the soft compound of tyre. Do you think he's going to try something different in the strategy to help leapfrog him up the order?
Possibly. We know that Miyazono is no stranger to trying different strategies. In fact, you know, we coined the Miyazono strat, which we use for every strategy we didn't understand, pretty much, for the last year or so. But I would be interested to see what he's going to make of this. I mean, again, to reiterate, if you've just joined us, Takuma Miyazono right now, who's currently 4th on circuit, if he finishes where he is, he would win the series at the moment, but of course we've still got a long way to go yet, and that would make him, he would have the triple crown of Gran Turismo, which is the DR Super GT Cup, the Manufacturer Series with Subaru, and the Nations Cup here, the big one. So a lot of pressure on the Japanese man's shoulders.
Yeah, to go from not winning a single championship a few days ago to potentially being a triple world champion.
Yeah.
I mean, Takuma Miyazono, his stock will be very, very high after the end of the season. It's already very high at the moment, but it will be through the roof if it stays as it is. Meanwhile, Mangano versus Lakowski once more down the Mulsanne straight. I just want to keep an eye out on some battles a little bit further back as well. Red Kokubun and Rick Kevelan are going pretty close to one another. That surely is going to be a bit of a foregone conclusion before too long, because Kevelan, the Dutchman, in 9th position, is on the soft compound of tyre compared to Kokubun, so that could be potentially set to change hands before too long. You can see there Giorgio Mangano, the race leader, the Italian driver, finished 11th, of course, in race 2. It's been a mixed bag for him so far here in this world final, but it's going so well here so far. Meanwhile, look at this gaggle going on for position.
This is what's been happening the entire race. Cars just coming together, clumping together, trying to find some speed. Now, this is interesting to see these guys still working together, still trying to push. Now, they're probably aware that their main competitors are Valerio Gallo and Takuma Miyazono. And it's great to see Cody finally wake up and get on it, so to speak, but it's going to be probably too little too late for his series. It really depends on how others finish in this, and realistically, if you're Cody, you need to win to do well. Here we go into the second chicane again. Kokubun, Lopez, Yamanaka, Kevelan all together. Kokubun leading the group at the moment, punching the hole in the air for the others to follow through. Koke Lopez as well. I never count out Koke. He's always capable of putting something out the bag on these last laps. He's got half the race yet to go. I still wonder what the Spaniard's capable of.
What's going on with Jose Serrano down there in 11th position as well? He's having an absolute shocker of a race here so far by his standards. Here's Rick Kevelan getting the better of Yamanaka, and also Koke Lopez there to boot down in towards the Mulsanne corner. Nice 2-in-1 overtake there from Rick Kevelan. Easy as you like for him. But Steve, I just want to go back to my earlier point about Jose Serrano. I mean, what do you think is going on there with him? I mean, he's down in 11th position. He's just nowhere in this race so far.
he's very much playing the long game. He started off on the slowest tyre, the hard tyre, then went to the medium, the next slowest tyre. So he's very much playing the long game. So I wouldn't count him out just yet.
2 seconds, Steve. Sorry to cut in front
go.
of you. We've got 3 right down the straight. I can't believe that. It's so close between you. Thank you for your input there then, Steve. But Lopez now into 6th position, ahead of Kevelim, ahead of Kokeman there. That could have been a bit spicy.
You're doing your best property impression there,
Thank
you?
you.
That was very good, that was. But look at this stake of cars now. And Serrano is in that. He's just about the back of the pack there. Look at what a camera angle that is, as all the rotaries just fly on by. That distinctive rotary scream as they come down the straight, of course. You might be more familiar with the Mazda 787B for this rotary noise, but great to see it incorporated with this RX-Vision car as we come up to the Porsche curves. Coco Lopez will lead Kevelim, who leads Kokeman, who leads Zamanaka, who leads Inestrosa, Serrano and Benelli. In fact, the only person not in this train is Blajan, who's another 2 seconds behind. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but Patrick obviously not having a good race.
Not going well at all there for Patrick Blajan. Now Lukovski and Mangino finally coming to the pit lane then on lap 5. They've got the best they can out of those medium tyres. They're going to go on to the hards then for presumably as short a time as they possibly can, as Kevelim harries the back of Coke Lopez as they come down in towards the Ford chicane then for the 5th time. Here's Valerio Gallo, who inherits the race lead as it stands, followed by Takuma Miyazono. There's Latkovski into the pit lane then, onto the hard tyres as we said. Is he going to take a bit of fuel on board here? Not quite at the moment, just a quick change of tyres, and he'll take fuel on board towards the end of the race. Emerges crucially there ahead of Mangino.
Now, Steve, now that we have fuel stops sort of coming now, what's the strategy? Fill up now, fill up later?
Well, I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at all of the drivers' fuel amounts, and you might have just noticed the drivers that went in had more than 50% fuel at the end of lap 5, which is halfway into the race. Therefore, they should be able to make it to the end of the race without having to refuel.
So that's really interesting, because our initial thoughts on that is that you would have to stop about 2 laps from the end. So again, fuel saving really coming into play here, and that might mean those that have been out front, who have been leading, are going to have to make an extra pit stop, or an extra stop for fuel, I should say, sorry, a bit longer in the pit lane than those who are not. And fueling really does take quite a bit of time in these cars, so if you can get away with not doing it, you're going to gain a massive amount on the guys on the circuit, and not even have to do that with driving, just by being quicker at the pit stop.
Quite right. Riding on board then here with Takuma Miyazono, a bit of a wheel coming out of the Mulsanne chicane then, or the chicane on the Mulsanne straight, I should say, rather. Andrea Carrazza was under investigation once again for ignoring the track limits. That's the 2nd time he's done that, so I wonder whether he'll be hit with a penalty there then by the stewards. Carrazza currently sitting P3.
The stewards are usually quite... I think it was a very strict parent. They'll give you 1 warning and then you get a slap.
Onto the naughty step.
Yeah, onto the naughty step, yeah. The slap comes in the form of a penalty. Here's Cody going on off track almost, get past Giorgio Magno. These guys have been together for the entire race so far, still working together at the moment, both on the hard tyre before. Now Rick Kevelim behind these guys on the soft. I have to think, is there round here, unless you're sort of running on your own, there's not much advantage to being on a different tyre. You might be able to stop a bit quicker. That's really about it.
Bold strategy there then. Steve, down to you. What do you reckon of things so far?
Yeah, I'm just looking at Miyazono's strategy, and I think it's actually a really good idea. He's the only person, or actually one of 2, to start on the medium, then go to the soft. And the benefit of that is he can roll up to each person, get a slingshot on everyone. And every time he does it, he's gaining a couple of tenths for free every time. So it could actually really pay off for him.
I think it may pay off, and I wonder on fuel, because that's going to be a very fuel-intensive thing to do to sort of roll up and hit the rev limiter. Although he might just be, big lift, short shifting on the way up. Because with a tow, you can afford to short shift quite a bit and still get the pace. And here's what we mean. Look backwards. Here's Giorgio Magno. We're on board with him now. Lukovski behind, Kevelim behind him. That's what the tow looks like. It's increasing speed quicker and quicker as the car in front punches a hole in the air, and you just take advantage of that. Coming down to Indy, Cody will take that. Kevelim will follow him through as well. Will Rick try and get by Cody as well? No, he can't do. And this is going to be really frustrating for Rick Kevelim, because he'll have so much more speed through these slower parts, but nowhere to go.
There we go then. So looking at Kevelim then in 5th position, trying to harry the back of Cody Nikola Lukovski. Surely he would be able to find a way past if we were on a circuit like Tsukuba. I mean, we're not. We're at the Circuit de la Sarthe, of course. And there's not so many twiddly bits like that. There's these long straights where you don't really see the advantage of the soft combative tyres, but it's coming through the Porsche curves as we're about to head into, where Kevelim will have a grip advantage. He goes towards the outside line, then side by side we go into the Porsche curves. Is Kevelim going to try and drive clean around the outside of Lukovski? You bet he he is. He's got great grip around the outside. He's got track position. Now he's got 4th place.
That would have been easy pickings there for Rick. It looks very spectacular at our end, but that's the soft tyre advantage. Just drive around the outside. Goodbye, Cody. And what Cody will be hoping now is that he doesn't pull away too much from his next few corners, and that he can just use the toe and stay with him. Because if you imagine you're on that hard compounder tyre and you're capable of staying with someone on the soft, that's so much more speed. But he's got to stay with him through this last chicane, which is going to be difficult, or ignore that completely and pit in. You know what? Be quiet, Jimmy. Whatever. Whatever.
So Lukovsky, Mangano coming into the pit lane, as well as Tamayoki Yamanaka. So they go from the mediums. I say that, everybody coming in the mid stages of this one. Look at this. A plethora of pit stops taking place, and pretty much everybody going on to the soft compound of tyre. Different variations of fuel there. Just looking at the driver who's the worst on fuel, that's Coque Lopez with 35 litres. The best on the other side is Andrew Brooks, who's got 45 litres left of fuel with 3 laps now remaining. So, Steve, what do you reckon? Do you think they'll be able to make it to the end with the fuel like it is?
I think they should be able to, but someone like Blashan, Lopez, 33, 35%. That's a bit above. Actually, you see they've actually taken some fuel on, so they would have lost a bit of time. We'll see what happens on the exit of the pit lane.
We are then, Miyazono on board again, using that toe and doing what Steve said, just sort of leapfrogging each driver as we come down the straight. Now watch his throttle input there. Let's see if he gets off the power a little bit earlier or not, because he'll have to surely be saving some fuel at some point if he's been running this quite aggressive track. Quite a big lift there, actually. He's off the throttle for a while going into the braking zone. Let's see what his shifts are like on the way up here. Is he using all the revs?
One thing to mention here as well is, of course, they don't just have the advantage of being able to short shift and lift and coast. They also have the advantage of fuel maps in the car as well. They can adjust the fuel map with the knobs on the wheel, just turn it down a little bit and get themselves into a fuel-saving mode here.
That's info we don't have, unfortunately. I wish we did. Maybe Steve does. I'm not sure if this or not. But by the way that he's not really gaining, maybe he's running a leaner mixer.
It's entirely possible. Meanwhile, Valerio Gallo now leads the way, but Takuma Miyazono is just 0.4 of a second shy of the Italian driver then. Of course, Gallo on the medium tyres, Miyazono on the soft compound of tyres, and this race is really going to be coming to a head. If it stays as it is, it would be Miyazono who would win the title by 3 points, so he doesn't need to finish ahead of Gallo as it stands at the moment, but he would love to be able to do so. We ride on board with him, and now we're ready to come down in towards the Mulsanne corner. Is he going to think about a bit of a lunge into there? It's quite far away at the moment. Just seizing the right opportunity is what Takuma Miyazono needs to do, and that wasn't presented on this occasion.
He was off the throttle there for about 1.5 seconds before even coming into the corner, so again, he's, I think, very aware of his fuel situation as well, and knows that right now he still has to make one more stop, as does Gallo, as does Carazza, as does Kevelan, to be able to get the end of this race. Okay, now he's going to go for it. Miyazono goes, right, okay, I've got the soft tyre. That's super clever. Oh, I'm always in awe of Miyazono because he's got the better tyre. There's no point overtaking down the straight. The tyre advantage doesn't work, but through here, through Indianapolis at the end of the circuit, having that soft tyre does pay off. And now he's going to bolt. Now he's going to get out of there, get past Gallo, and just go for it. Already, look, the gap up to nearly 0.4 of a second through there, into Argenage now, late on the brakes. And this is what Miyazono is known for. Their skill, but there's also knowledge to back it up.
Beautiful driving there from Takuma Miyazono, ahead now of his title rival, Valerio Gallo. And you can see on the right-hand side of your screen just what difference that would mean in terms of the points, with Takuma Miyazono and Valerio Gallo separated by a significant margin. Adriano Carazza there in 3rd place here in this race. Of course, he fought so hard with Ryota Kokuben for the victory last year in Tokyo, and he's doing a good job there in P3 as we head in towards the final couple of laps here for this grand final. What a great race it has been. What a great evening of racing we have had over the course of tonight. Starting off, of course, at Fuji. Great racing in the Toyota Yaris. Last time out, of course, for race number 2. We were competing at the Tokyo Expressway in the wet in the Porsche 911. And here we are at the Circuit de la Sarthe in these Mazda RX-Vision Gran Turismo GT3 car. So into the pits comes Miyazono with Valerio Gallo also coming in to follow, and Adriano Carazza here as well.
So fuel like Carazza. Oh, Carazza's going to have to take a bit of fuel, I think. I think he's outdone himself there. So count him out for the rest of the race for both Miyazono and Gallo. Have enough fuel to get to the end. So it's going to be who comes out the pit lane where, and that will really settle our fight to the end. Cody at the head of his train at the moment. Here comes Miyazono into the pit lane, onto the hardest compounder tyre. So he's going to be a little bit slow towards the end of the race, but we don't know if that's really going to count for much, given that we know the slipstream plays a bigger factor. So out of the pit lane he comes. Out comes ahead of Gallo in 2nd place. Rick Kevelan leads this race, but he's yet to pit. What is the gap behind?
So 8.3 seconds, 6.3 seconds, just coming down and down and down there between Gallo and Kokubun there. You can see Kevelam now leads the way, but of course he owes one more pit stop then in this race. So this is the de facto race leaders. These drivers have now made their final stops for tyres then in this one. The hard compound tyre, that's going to feel pretty horrible compared to others around who are on softs here at the moment to the end of this.
But they'll be working together now, Gallo and Miyazono. I think Gallo will know that really, realistically, he cannot win this now if Miyazono's with him. So he'll just try and work for the best place possible. Right now, he's actually in that. If he can keep the draft, they can work together. They can finish 1-2 here. I'm sure they'll sort out who finishes where towards the end of the race. And know that Gallo turning the car down on a lower mix of fuel, which again you said, Tom, and just waiting now, waiting behind Miyazono, maybe not even wanting to swap, maybe hoping Miyazono will run out of fuel.
Just one thing to mention, by the way, in case you've noticed on the left-hand side of your screen, a name that's missing. Baptiste Beauvoir has retired from this race. Technical issue by the looks of things there then for the Frenchman. He is out of the grand final on home soil. We now have 15 competitors left running then here in this grand final. So Steve, what do you make of things out there so far? We're coming in towards crunch time, into the crescendo of this race. Who's in the best position? Who's in the worst?
It looks like Miyazono to me. He's in the box seat at the moment. I'm just looking back at Jose Serrano, and it really is not looking good for him. He just has not had any pace at all at any phase of the race. So unfortunately for him, it really isn't looking good.
Well, at this point, if he finishes where he is, or despite going into this race joint first, he would score no points and end up fifth. He wouldn't even be on the podium.
That's going to be a hard pill to swallow, given how well he's driven here tonight as well. Let's not forget, as have all of the drivers. Look at the background there. Look at how close we are for position. Let's keep an eye on that. That's Kota Lukovsky just leading the train for P5. Giorgio Mangano very close. Adriano Carazza, Tomoyoki Yamanaka in there as well. Miyazono versus Gallo still goes on for second position. The de facto race lead, though, because, of course, Kevelam in front has got to make that final stop. They come then out of the Mulsanne corner and head down the straight once again on the run towards Indianapolis then here.
Steve, I'm going to pick your brains while we have you, because it's helpful. Do you reckon this gap behind third, the Kokubun, do you reckon they can close that down? Do they have time?
I think so. I was looking at the lap times earlier, and it was about 2 seconds per lap between the hard and the medium. So between the hard and the soft, it could be a bit bigger than that. And there's, well, 2 laps to go, 4 seconds gap. I think they could realistically be caught.
Onto the naughty step then for Adriano Carazza, meanwhile, as he serves a penalty. So 1 second for ignoring the track limits quite repeatedly. I think that's the third warning he's had there in this race. So that's a second's worth of penalty, and he will in theory then lose out to his fellow countryman Lucas Bonelli, who Bonelli is already catching him because, of course, difference in tyre strategies, and Bonelli is now past him as he serves that penalty.
That's a shame for Carazza, not really gone his way. It's one of it just sort of fell off the boil and didn't get back on it again. Oh, Gallo getting a little bit close to Miyazono there. That would be, if you took him right now, you'd see that in the mirror, you go, oof, stop that, mate, come on, we're so close, we're near. So we'll be coming on to the penultimate lap next time we come by the start-finish line. It is right now Rick Kevelam leading. He owes a stop. He may be in this lap on the soft tyre. As Tom said, this will be the de facto race lead, so Rick Kevelam is in. As I say it, Miyazono will lead from Gallo, from Kokubun, from Lukovsky, but where will Kevelam come out? That's the important thing, because that will have a big effect on our live point rankings.
So coming through the Ford chicane then over the timing line, we're onto the penultimate lap then here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. Then who is going to emerge where then? Let's see what's going to happen here with Rick Kevelam, as he is still in the pit lane there. He's not taking any fuel on board there by the looks of things, and he is going to be comfortably behind these top two as well. So that's crucial there for Miyazono and Valerio Gallo's championship charge. Out onto the hard compound tyre for his final stint in this race there, Rick Kevelam. He's going to emerge a fair way down the order as he comes back into the race down in P13. You can see the live points rankings on your screen as it stands. It would be Takuma Miyazono who would take it by 11 points. I mean, it has just been an absolutely fantastic performance. Both of these guys tonight, Miyazono and Gallo, have driven to perfection.
The race is not over yet, though. That's what we say. It's not over till the checkered flag falls. And whilst Miyazono leads now, we've seen things in old series, and we've seen in real life, Le Mans, that things are not done until the race is completely over. There is the gap back to Ryota Kokubun and the rest of the second pack. Mangano back there as well as Lukovsky. Right now, just looking at the standings, yes, Lukowski really probably not going to get in the top 5. It's a little bit too late for Lukowski in terms of the points, but this is a battle to watch. They are being caught, but I don't think fast enough.
No, I should imagine there'll be frustration there for Koda Lukowski as well. He was and is still battling to Mangano, who's just lost 4th position from there as well. So might be helping him with trying to get that top 5 finish. It could come down to how it happens on track between those drivers. Riding on board here then with Valerio Gallo. There's lots of great battles going on further back. Adam Tapai and Andrew Brooks in 8th and 9th position, exchanging positions there as Tapai now gets himself through into P8. Lots of exciting racing action. Meanwhile, it goes from bad to worse for Jose Serrano. What a shocker of a grand final he's having right when it matters there as well. He's just lost 11th position from Angelo Nestroza.
Nestroza as well, another one, isn't it? They started
what could have been?
I say started off strong and then forgot to press the right button in the pit lane for Nestroza. Here we are, now things are starting to get a bit spicy as the race runs down. That is Mangano and Lukowski both trying to get by Yamanaka and Kokubun. Mangano will get by, Lukowski will not, so Kokubun will stay in 4th. Mangano up into 3rd place. Now this is it right now, that Mangano is fighting for a podium, and the thing is, the person who's going to help him is Lukowski, because Kokubun right now on points will finish ahead, but if Lukowski can get by, and if Yamanaka does the same, then Mangano might end up on the overall podium. Points are starting to get tight now.
Certainly is, and of course all the while they're swapping, the Miyazono and Gallo will be breathing a sigh of relief as it stands, because they're just holding each other up. Here you can see Kokubun going towards the outside then of Giorgio Mangano. He's got the advantage of the slipstream, ready for Lukowski to try and take advantage of Mangano there as well. Goes a long way around the outside, and Indianapolis switches left, now has the inside line for the next corner. 2 places lost in 1 turn there for Giorgio Mangano, and here comes Yamanaka down the inside of the Italian to add insult to injury. He's through on the inside then and is back up into a position, so Mangano from the podium is now down into 6th.
And in the live point standings, down to 8th. That's how tight it is at the moment. So Yamanaka now has the Italian behind. Flashes of the lights all around. Everyone's getting very aggressive now in these late stages of the race. Here's Gallo. Here's Miyazono. These guys have been together for the most of the second half of the race at this point. They both have fuel to get to the end. And at the moment, there is nothing Gallo can do. Even if he beats Miyazono on circuit, it won't be enough. Miyazono will be our Nations Cup champion. So we come on now to start the last lap of the race. Miyazono only has 13 kilometers left to become the first Japanese Nations Cup world champion. Valerio Gallo behind as well will do his best to try and beat him on circuit, but it's looking very, very good for Takuma.
Over to you, Steve. What do you have for us as we come on to the last lap then?
Yeah, I was looking at Kokubun in 3rd. He was a second quicker than Gallo and Miyazono on that lap, but it looks like it's not enough. He is on a softer tyre, but he's now just started the 5th lap on that soft tyre, which is probably one too many, because no one else has actually done that in this race yet.
A lot of squabbling amongst them as well over the course of the last couple of laps there. They've been busy involved in their own battles, and well, it's a great battle, great spectacle for us to be able to witness. It hasn't been good for their charge up to the top 2 then in this race, and you can see them coming down through the S-bends then, ready to come through Tetra Rouge. Bit wide there for Kokubun. That's going to allow an opportunity for Lukowski to pull alongside there. Oh, very close to one another as well. We cross back to Valerio Gallo coming down the Mulsanne straight as he's now back into the slipstream of Takuma Miyazono. It's very close from 3rd position, very, very close indeed. And we look then to see what is going to happen with the race lead between Takuma Miyazono and Valerio Gallo. So in the slipstream once more then, look at this, 3 wide down the Mulsanne straight. So Kokubun's in the middle, Yamanaka's on the right-hand side, and it's now 4 wide down the Mulsanne straight almost. This is absolutely fantastic. Bit of a nudge there from Koda Lukowski on the left-hand side of your picture for Tomoki Yamanaka. Kokubun in the middle, Mangano then. Who's going to be able to break latest? Who's going to blink first? Yamanaka's on the inside. Yamanaka through into 3rd place. Bit of a switchback there and a bit of a slide there for Mangano as he gets himself ahead of Lukowski onto the second half of the Mulsanne.
The thing is, Kokubun here could be the big loser. He needs to finish in the top 5 to get the 3rd step of the overall podium. So on that worn soft tyre, he's going to be struggling for grip, struggling under braking, struggling getting out of the corners, and everyone around him are going to try and make the best advantage of that. Right now, Yamanaka is ahead. He's got his fellow countryman in front of him. just got Giorgio Mangano behind, who's now getting very aggressive. He knows it's the last lap of the race. He knows there's still a chance he can make up some places in the overall standings. But Yamanaka now driving away from Yota Kokubun and leaving him to deal with the Italian behind.
Maybe he's got a bit more fuel on board, and maybe he's able to whack it up to a higher fuel map, and that's just going to help him out a little bit more here, and potentially he could have preserved a bit more of his tyres, and that could be helping Tomoyuki Yamanaka, the Samurai, then into third position. But he's got Kokubun very much closing him down in the second half of the Mulsanne straight, then coming in towards Mulsanne corner. Mangano has a sneaky little look there, but not able to make a move. Coming through the Mulsanne corner then, and onto the straight once again. It's a good exit out of here that you need as you head down to Indianapolis. They're side by side, Benelli and Carazza in the background for 7th position, but this is crucial then for their positions in the standings between these drivers as we come through, and now we see Gallo on the back of Miyazono once more.
Here we go then, Gallo going to the outside of Miyazono. He wants to win this last race just for the pride of it. Gets by the Japanese driver through to Indianapolis. Takuma doesn't need to do anything here. He can be relaxed. He can just stay there. He doesn't need the overall race win. There are the life point standings. If things finish as they are, Miyazono will win by 3 points. But I'm sure, just like Gallo, he'll want that last win, that last opportunity to stand on the top step of the podium this year in Gran Turismo.
Lots to gain there, lots to lose for these drivers though there as well. You can see Miyazono into the slipstream once again, then of Valerio Gallo as we come through into the Porsche curves then for the final time in 2020. So Miyazono is all over the back of Gallo. Gallo knows that. He goes defensive coming into there. Is Miyazono going to be able to go the long way around the outside? No, he's not. Gallo holds on then, so coming through into there, but he's slower in the second half of the corner here there for Valerio Gallo. Miyazono is going to be right on the back of him as they come in towards the Ford chicane then for the final time. So it's advantage to Miyazono in terms of being able to dive down the inside, but Gallo holds on to the race lead as they come through here. A solid run is what Takuma Miyazono needs to take the win. He's got enough to take the title. If it stays as it is, it doesn't matter if he wins the race, but you know he's going to want that for pride. So into the Ford chicane we go for the final time then. Valerio Gallo, what a race it has been for the Italian driver. He's driven to perfection and he wins the grand final, but it's not enough to deny Takuma Miyazono the World Championship in the Nations Cup. Takuma Miyazono is the 2020 World Champion in the Nations Cup. Lekowski finishes in third position. Gallo takes the win. Absolute delight for the Italian driver. What a race it has proven to be for him, but what a race for Takuma Miyazono. He comes over the line and he is champion of the world in 2020.
I wonder if he knows it though. Look, he's sitting there. He looks very calm. Gallo thinks, I think he thinks he's won it. I think, and this is it right now. They're all trying to sort out the points and understand what's happening. It's all happened last minute, and maybe now sinking in for Valerio Gallo that he's not won, and in fact it's Miyazono that has. So, yeah, there it is. I think he's realised.
Well, there you go. Emotion on the face of Valerio Gallo. He tried as hard as he could, and oh, dearie me. I mean, he'll be pleased with having taken the win, but he'll be so bitterly disappointed with having not done enough. It came down. It was 3 points in it in the end, and it is Takuma Miyazono who is our world champion of 2020. My goodness me. Steve, over to you. Let's get your final thoughts on that grand final and indeed the Nations Cup here tonight. What do you reckon?
Cheers, Tom. That was an amazing final, and again, a really good performance from Miyazono. Once again, just really being absolutely clinical with every lap, every braking point, and the strategy. He got the strategy to perfection. Conversely, Serrano, got a feel for him. It just did not happen for him at all. I was on board with him for quite a lot of those laps, and nothing fell his way. There wasn't slipstream opportunities. There was nothing for him. So unfortunately for him, he's not going to be the Nations Cup winner this year, but I'm sure he'll come back strong in 2021. What did you make of it, Tom and Jimmy?
Well, cheers there, Steve. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal season for Takuma Miyazono. I mean, if we look back, he won Sydney, the World Tour there. He won the Nations Cup Online season. He won the Asia-Oceania Regional Final. He won the Supras a few days ago. He won the Manufacturers Series for Subaru, and now he's won the Nations Cup. He's won 6 events in 2020. He is the true definition of a champion.
I'm not sure I've even won 6 races in 2020. That guy is just insane speed, insane talent, an amazing job by him. Big loser, though, it's got to be Jose Serrano. He was tied with Miyazono going into the last round in points and ended up, I think, 4th overall. That's a massive loss. I mean, as Steve said, just didn't get going.
No, nowhere in that last race, was he? It's such a disappointment there for Jose Serrano. Big congratulations, though, to Takuma Miyazono. We now head over to the FIA, who've got a special message for our champion.
What an exciting race. Superb driving down the Mulsanne Straight, through the chicanes, great lines, great braking. My congratulations for this year's Nations Cup champion, Takuma. And just to remember, we had previous winners from Brazil, Germany, now Japan. This is a real global event. And my congratulations also to Team Subaru. Takuma again, but now Mikhail and Daniel, who also did a fabulous job. So my congratulations to all of you, and thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Let's take a look, shall we, at some highlights then from that grand final race at the Circuit de la Sarthe. So away from pole position, it was Valerio Gallo from Ryota Kokubun, all got a bit argy-bargy a bit further back. And in the opening stages, you can see it was Gallo from Carazza from Mangano, and then this gaggle of cars all following.
It very much set the tone for what this race is going to be. A big drafting battle, overtaking, getting by, and then drafting the guy behind you. Here was Miyazono and Gallo. This is when Miyazono finally thought, you know what, I'm going to start pulling away now. Got by Gallo and will be first into the pit lane to go onto the hard compound tyre.
Onto the final lap, it was 3 wide, nearly 4 wide on some occasions. This was for the final spot on the podium. Yamanaka getting ahead at this particular point in the race. Meanwhile, Miyazono versus Gallo went side by side into Indianapolis on the straight. It was Gallo who would eventually hold on for the race win, but it wasn't enough to halt the charge of Takuma Miyazono to become the first ever Japanese Nations Cup world champion. You can see what it meant there to Valerio Gallo. And there we go, that's what it means in terms of the race results there as well. Gallo on top from Miyazono and Lakowski.
Yeah, ending up the podium there, Yamanaka and Kokubun in 5th with Benelli in 6th. Jose Serrano at 12th place for him. No more points on the board, importantly, meant that he ended up with our final standings here in 5th position. But you can see how tight it was, even after 3 races, only 3 points in it between Miyazono and Gallo. And Ryota Kokubun will make up the last step of the podium. 2 Japanese drivers on the podium in the World Finals here.
History then is made in 2020 for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships. And let's head down then to Julia, who is crucially with our 2020 champion, Takuma Miyazono.
Thanks so much, guys. I mean, that was an incredible, nail-biting final race. I can't believe it's the final race of 2020. I'm getting a little bit emotional. But I'm going to keep it together because you know what? We need to talk to Takuma Miyazono. Takuma, I mean, I don't know if you've done the maths yet, but you do realise that you are now our Nations Cup champion. How do you feel?
なんか本当に勝てるって思ってなかったので、嬉しいんですけど、そのゴールした瞬間に、2位だったので、本当に総合で1位取れたのかどうか分かんなくて、で、一応勝ったのかなって思ったんですけど、はっきりしてなかったので、そのゴールした時にあんまりなんか喜べてなかったのがちょっとまあそこはまあ仕方ないって言えば仕方ないんですけど、まあでも本当優勝がこうやって決まってもうすごくほっとしてます。
I mean, that's the thing. You still want to win the race, whether or not, you know, you'll end up. But basically, you know, you fully won. Like, no one's going to take that away from you. But in case you didn't also notice, Takuma, you've won everything. You won everything. You've done the whole hat trick. This, like, over the past, you know, few days of championships, you've won every single one. That's never happened before. Has it sunk in?
レース前にも言われてたんですけど、本当に今言われて思い出したっていうぐらい、もうすっかり忘れてしまっていて、本当に信じられないです。
It's amazing. I mean, you know, above and beyond what anyone could ever expect this weekend to have the same driver win every single championship. We could never have predicted it, but it just goes to show what an incredible force to be reckoned with you are. So let's have a quick think. I know you've only just finished the race. What about next year? Are you gonna keep the pressure on for next year? Are you gonna come back and win everything all over again?
今年はシドニーのネーションズカップからすごく本当に1年間いい流れで来れたし、こうやって最後のワールドファイナルもきっちり優勝で締めくくることができたので、すごく嬉しいですし、そうですね、来年以降ももちろん優勝を目指して頑張っていくんですけど、今回は普段と違う、オンラインっていう形での 戦いでしたし、自分が挑戦者っていうことを忘れずに、また来年に向けて、一から頑張って、でまだまだ自分自身、伸ばさないといけない部分があるので、もっと来年は強くなって、戻ってこれるように頑張ります。
Yes, that's what we want to hear. He's got it in him. It's fantastic. Well, look, big congratulations, Takuma. You definitely need to go and celebrate. You've won 3 things, for heaven's sake. Have a nice night out. Do something spectacular. And yeah, thank you so much. And we will, of course, see you next year. Big, big congratulations. But now, I mean, as much as Takuma doesn't think he's a master strategist, obviously he is, because he's just literally mopping up all the wins, left, right and centre. What do you think, Tom and Jimmy?
It's time then to pick our Michelin driver of the day, the driver who has impressed us most of all over the course of the Nations Cup World Finals. Who is it, Jimmy?
Well, I mean, I think not to anybody's surprise, it's going to be Takuma Miyazono. So another big tick in the box of achievements for him this year, and in my opinion, thoroughly deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been an amazing Nations Cup World Finals. It's been an amazing season of racing, really. I mean, given what's happened in 2020, I was really worried that we weren't going to be able to make these events happen, but it's a true credit to the team at Polyphony, to the competitors, to everybody who's been able to put these events together.
I think even despite that, I've been in this shirt more than I've been in my own clothes. That's how much we've been doing the GT races this year. It's been fantastic fun. And super looking forward to whatever we have next year.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's go over then, shall we, to the podium ceremony. A season which started in February in Australia, culminates finally here in December as we have crowned our 2020 Nations Cup World Champion for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships. We've got the award ceremony to take place to congratulate our 3rd, 2nd and 1st place finishers in the Nations Cup. But before we do, we head down to the Japanese studio for a few words with the producer of Gran Turismo, Kazunori Yamauchi.
宮園選手は考えてみれば、今年のワールドツアーシドニーで勝ち、オンラインシーズンでも勝ち、それからリージョナルファイナルでも勝ち、GR スープラカップでも勝ち、そしてマニファクチャラーシリーズグランドファイナルでも勝ち、そして今日ネーションズカップでも勝つということで、今年6冠、グランドスラムの達成ですよね。なんかそんなすごいことが起きるだなんて僕らも想像してなかったんですけれども、常にすごい選手というのは、僕らの想像を超えてくるんだなっていうふうに思って、感激しています。本当におめでとうございます。
Thank you to Yamauchi-san for a speech there from our Japanese studio. Now we will present the prizes to our top 3 finishers in the Nations Cup standings. In 3rd place, from Japan, Ryota Kokuban. In 2nd place, from Italy, Valerio Gallo! And now the 2020 Nations Cup World Champion in the FIA Gran Turismo Championships from Japan, it's Takuma Miyazono! And now it is time for the national anthem of Japan. national anthem of Japan plays out in honour of Takuma Miyazono, the 2020 Nations Cup World Champion. And we also have a fantastic gift for Takuma as well from our partners at Sony. A set of a professional grade 61 megapixel Sony Alpha 7-4R with full image sensor, a super bright 24mm f1.4 lens set. This is the same camera system that's used in the production of the Scapes photo mode in Gran Turismo Sport. And before we conclude the ceremony here today, we will first go back to our studio in Tokyo for a final word from Kazunori Yamauchi.
はい、ですね、その僕らがスポーツを作った、理由というか、まあ、グランツーリスモスポーツを作ってから気づいたことなんですけれども、スポーツというのはまあ、人を輝かせるものだし、あと何ていうのかな、人の本当の持っている素晴らしさみたいなものをね、こう発見するための装置だっていうことに気づいたんですよね。でそれはワールドツアーをやるたびに、ワールドファイナルを迎えるたびに僕らはそれがまあ確信に変わっていって、でこういうことのために僕たちはグランツーリスモスポーツというタイトルを作ったんだなっていうことに気づかされます。で今回のイベントも何て言うんでしょうね、ずっと皆さんのねこの選手の成長というのを僕ら目の当たりにしてるわけですけれども、やっぱり常に僕らのこう想像を超えてどんどん先へ向かっていくんですね。で僕らはグランツーリスモも、ここにチームメンバーいますけれども、僕らグランツーリスモもやっぱりもうどんどん未来に向かって、成長して、まあ、自分たちをね向上していかなきゃいけないなっていうふうに、まあ、つくづく思いました。すごく勇気をいただきました。皆さん本当におめでとうございます。僕らも力をもらいました。ありがとう。
A huge congratulations to our top three finishers, Ryota Kokuman, Valerio Gallo and the 2020 World Champion Takuma Miyazono. Thank you as well to all of the drivers who have partaken in what has been a very unusual 2020, but what a way to conclude the season's worth of racing. Some fantastic action both on track and off it as well. We very much look forward to welcoming you back for more action with the 2021 FIA Gran Turismo Championships very, very soon indeed. All that remains for me to say is a huge thank you as well to the team on the production staff at Polyphony Digital and here as well as part of the presentation crew. To Julia Hardy, to Steve Brown, to Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, thank you very much indeed for joining us and we look forward to seeing you again in 2021.
Hello and welcome to the Extra Lap, the show because there is just far too much excitement in the main show and so much of it happens so quickly that we miss half of it. So we just need like a few moments just to really just get to grips and make sure we didn't miss any of the action. I think you can all agree that the 2020 season for Gran Turismo has been pretty spectacular and all things considered has been incredible racing. So we thought we'd get all of the best racers in the world just to have a bit of a chat with us now. So Tom and Jimmy are with them.
Yeah, cheers, Julia. Thank you very much indeed. Looking forward to chatting to some of our top three finishers here tonight. I mean, just quickly, what an absolutely amazing season's worth of racing we've had.
It's been pretty mad. It's kind of weird to think now we're at the end of it, especially after, of course, these are very long days for us when we are doing the shows here. So it's mad to think we're now sort of at the end. And if you missed it, here are the results, the points rankings for the Nations Cup World Finals. Miyazono taking the win by only 3 points in the end from Valerio Gallo, and Ryota Kokuman sort of sneaking in there in third place. So sneaking is a bit of a disservice. He did try very well.
Yeah, certainly did. Let's chat to our top three finishers then from that evening's worth of racing, the World Finals for the Nations Cup. Ryota Kokuman finished in third position. Ryota, we believe we've got you there now. Just want to chat to you and find out, how are you feeling about finishing in third place at the end of the Nations Cup World Finals?
はい、まず自分が表彰台に上がれるとは全く思っていなかったので、この結果には満足しています。
Well, Ryota, it's been a rather interesting 2020 for everybody. And of course, you've been racing at home this season. How have you found that compared to these live events?
はい、まあ 本番のそのオフラインのライブイベントだと、その会場の独特の緊張感というのがあるんですけど、オンラインっていう形だとやっぱりそういった雰囲気がちょっとないのかなと思いました。
Well, Ryota, congratulations on finishing in third place. You should be very, very proud of your results. Let's go over then to our second place finisher, Valerio Gallo, the Italian driver, inside the top two, oh so close to Takuma Miyazono. Valerio, how are you feeling about finishing in second place? Are you happy with the result? Are you disappointed to come so near but yet so far?
I only know that I made my best drive ever today, and I cannot even believe to say I'm a vice world champion. So really, thank you so much, guys. Also, thank you to Miyazono-san for the battle, and also to Yota-san for making it to the podium. And yeah, I'm really so happy. I was really screaming of joy in that moment when I crossed the finish line. So what to say? I'm so happy right now. I'm really happy.
It was great to see that. We got to watch you do that as you come across the line. I wanted to ask Valerio, last year, I think it's fair to say you weren't really on this kind of pace. You know, you're a bit further down the field, but this year has been monumental for you. And now here you are, of course, second on the podium, second best driver in the world at Gran Turismo Sport. I mean, what do you accredit to that? What helped you get there?
A lot of dedication. And I want to say that, especially in the last year, it was that key moment where, like, I really realized I was there, but not fully. So I really dedicate a lot of time in the trainings and also in changing my driving style and improving. And yeah, during the 2020 online season, it happened because I managed to win the manufacturer season as well, to be a vice European champion in the Nations Cup. But right now, I really cannot believe I'm the vice world champion. So it's something that I really didn't expect, but it came in. So really, really, really excited, really joyful.
Well, congratulations, Valerio. You should be very, very proud of your result. I happen to know that his nickname is also Funky, so maybe he can do some funky dances in celebration tonight, perhaps.
I'll be watching out for that.
Anyway, let's go over to our 2020 Nations Cup World Champion, Takuma Miyazono. Takuma, huge congratulations from us all here as well. We just want to say that you drove superbly tonight. You've won 6 events over the course of this year, if you consider the World Tour in Sydney. You won, of course, the Nations Cup Online Finals. You won the regional finals, you won Supras, you won manufacturers, and now I know I am. And now you've won the Nations Cup here tonight as well. How are you feeling about that?
本当に未だになんか実感もないですし、はい、本当シドニーから本当になんかいい流れで、ここまで来れたっていうのはもちろんあったと思うんですけど、こうやってスープラカップだったり。ニャクチャラだったりで、今日もこうやってネーションズカップで優勝できて、もう本当にもう信じられないですし、もうなんかどう喜んでいいのかわからないぐらいな感じですね。
Takuma, I've had the joy of being at every world final since we started this back in 2018. You now join a very special list of drivers. Yourself, Mikhail Hazal, and Igor Fraga name on the same trophy. How does it feel now to be, well, you are the best Gran Turismo driver in the world. How does that feel?
はい。正直、イゴールとニックの2人に、肩を並べ入れたとは、まだ、なんかそう、完全に並べ入れたとは思ってなくて、やっぱり、まだまだ、彼らに学ぶべき部分も多いですし、今後そうですね、やっぱり一緒に戦ったり、チーム組んだりとか、敵として戦う場面もあると思うので、そういった時に、彼らに負けないようにで、もっと自分が強くなれるように、はい、もう頑張っていきたいと思います。
Well, Takuma, as if you haven't won enough awards this year, you've also, I can now tell you, been awarded the Michelin Driver of the Day for your performances in the Nations Cup. Just tell us how it feels to also be awarded Michelin Driver of the Day to go with all of your other accolades in 2020.
本当に 本当にもういろんな賞というか、トロフィーだったり、今回のミシュランのドライブ・オブ・ザ・デーもそうですし、本当もういろいろな賞をいただけて、なんか自分の中ではすごく誇りに思えているというか、もうこれからの人生においても、結構大きな価値を持ってくるんじゃないかなっていうふうに思います。
Well, Takuma, congratulations once again, and congratulations to our top 3 competitors in general as well, to Ryota Kokubun, to Valerio Gallo, and to our 2020 world champion, Takuma Miyazono. JB, what a year it's been. I mean, we were in Sydney, rather, I should say. That was last year, Paris.
Yeah, wow.
It does feel like last year, though, Sydney, when we think about it, because it was so long ago, and given how this year has played out, I don't think we ever thought that something like this would end up happening.
No, I mean, I think it really shows the strength of sim racing, the strength of Gran Turismo, that we can still be here doing these shows and having such a fantastic race still, and conforming to all the guidelines we have to conform to. We can still have some of the best racing in the world, and that's why for me this is such a magical event. I really hope that we can continue.
Yeah, absolutely right, and long live the Gran Turismo Championships. We look forward to bringing you more in 2021. A huge thank you to all of the production staff who have been able to make this event happen. A huge thank you to all the team behind the scenes at Polyphony Digital as well. A massive thank you to our competitors for staying up at all hours, waking up early, working through the night on some occasions to be able to be a part of the Gran Turismo Championships World Finals in 2020. And most importantly, thank you to you at home as well. We couldn't have done it without you, and we look forward to bringing you more in 2021. From Julia Hardy, from Steve Brown, from Jimmy Broadbent, and from myself, Tom Brooks, thank you very much again for joining us in 2020, and we look forward to seeing you next year.